What's going on, everybody? Welcome to J-100 TV. How you guys doing today? We got some interesting things to talk about. Hopefully some interesting stories to find and break down and go through. Turn this down a little bit. How's everybody doing today? Welcome. Whew. All right. Well, it's Wednesday. We've had some primaries happen in a few states, but I really don't have the only thing that's consequential is Texas. It's the only thing I'm really worried about. It's the only one I want to talk about and get into, unless there's some prospects from chat or whatever as we go through that somebody wants to bring up or anything like that. But I only care about Texas right now. We got the Senate briefing. Seems like Congress is kind of getting involved slowly as we murder innocent people and have our service members in action and dying. What else we got going on? Let's see. Going through some headlines. I don't really see much. We'll get into it, and hopefully we'll check out some clips and see what everybody's talking about. But I guess to begin, let's get into the Texas primary between James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett. So on Tuesday, State Representative James Tallarico topped U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett in the Texas Senate Democratic Party primary, the AP projected early Wednesday. By outspending Crockett and leveraging a statewide tour, Tallarico built reach through more than 4-to-1 television advertising and 64 million allied TV campaign. With 91% of the vote counted, Tallarico led 53% to 46%, while Crockett swept black voters with a 72% margin. Yeah, it was going to show up. The Texas Supreme Court ordered late ballots to be separated, complicating counts in Dallas County, while Crockett's campaign said she planned to sue over voting issues. No Democrat has won statewide in Texas in over 30 years, and Tallarico told Austin voters, "We're not just trying to win an election. He must build trust with black voters, moderate Latino voters, and conservative white voters over the next 8 months." I personally don't think that part is going to be too much of an issue. I mean, we'll kind of look at the details and all that stuff here momentarily. But let's go to AP. Let's see if they got any new information. The question for Tallarico as he heads into the general election campaign is whether he can generate enthusiasm from voters who opted for Crockett because they saw her as the more aggressive voter against Trump. I mean, if we're just gonna be asking questions to ask questions, then yes, there's questions ahead into the general election. But I think this is one of those situations where this was a Democratic primary, and the Democrats had to choose between the two people that they had to choose from, and that's how it shook out. Overall, I think most, if not almost all, of those voters are going to support Tallarico in the general election. The question for that Tallarico has as he heads into the general election campaign is whether he can generate enough enough enthusiasm to get voters to switch from the other party, or to get apathetic voters to vote for him. That's what it is. Not voters who opted for Crockett. The writing, I appreciate AP, and that's why I like doing this news scroll, because we get to look at different perspectives. I appreciate AP for laying it down and giving me what I need sometimes, but then when they add, the writing is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. But anyway, Crockett conceded to Tallarico on Wednesday morning, saying that Texas is primed to turn blue and we must remain united because this is bigger than any one person. Tallarico will need all the help he can get in Republican-dominated state where Democrats have gone decades without winning a statewide race. He will face either John Cornyn or Ken Paxton, which there's going to be a runoff for that one because the vote was too close. I really don't care. I don't have any stake in Texas politics. There's a point that I want to get to, so I'm breaking down all the facts about this Texas race. But I don't really care which conservative comes out of Texas. They're all equally bigoted trash. So for what I'm trying to have accomplish in the country and the world. So conventional wisdom has it that Tallarico was the stronger Democratic candidate in November, especially if Republicans nominate Paxton, a conservative firebrand who has weathered allegations of corruption and infidelity over the years. Although Democrats are often choosing between moderate and progressive candidates in primaries, they face a largely stylistic choice in Texas. Tallarico is a Presbyterian seminarian who quotes scripture and rarely raises his voice. Crockett, 44, is an unapologetic political brawler who hammers Trump and other Republicans with acidic flourish. Both have been reliably progressive votes in their current roles and telegenic faces across cable news and social media. Both represent generational change for a party with aging leadership. Each called for more equitable economy and society. Each talked about bringing sporadic voters into their coalitions. But Tallarico's broader argument is one that he could have made regardless of whether Trump was in the White House. Tallarico's campaign, he said often, is about addressing a country whose fundamental divide is not partisan but top versus bottom. He regularly assails the rise in Christian nationalism. A former teacher, he has advocated for public education and against Texas conservatives' policies to restrict curriculum and reshape how U.S. history is taught. He's just a good friend, and he's a serious advocate for the disenfranchised and a serious policymaker, said Leah Downey Gallatin, an Austin resident who became friends with Tallarico when they integrated together interned together for a congressman. Crockett promised Democrats that she would increase turnout within the party's base, while Tallarico campaigned on the theory that he could pull new people into the party's tent. I can't tell you have to come up to me whispering that they're not a Democrat, Tallarico said as he campaigned in San Antonio in the closing days of the primary campaign. I can't tell you how many young people have said it's the first time they have ever voted, and that they're participating for the first time. Well, maybe that's because they were young, James, but aside. As he trolled through the city, Tallarico posed for pictures and greeted the singer of a Tejano band playing nearby. He later spoke to hundreds of people at the historic stable, blah, 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 blah. Tell me, I don't care about this. Okay. Nothing new on that one. All right. So there was issue though that I picked up on, that there was a change with this headline here, that there was a change in the primary voting rules that led to confusion in 2 Texas counties as voters were turned away. So I want to dig into this before we kind of dig into the Crockett Tallarico thing from my perspective, now that the Texas primary is over and someone from Ohio can put his 2 cents in, and it means something, I guess. A rule change for primary voting in 2 Texas counties created mass confusion Tuesday that eventually led to a state Supreme Court ruling. Threats of more legal action and the potential that an untold number of votes could find themselves disenfranchised. Oh, here we go. The chaos had the most direct potential impact on the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate, of course. The county with the greatest number of affected voters includes Dallas and is the home base for Representative Jasmine Crockett, an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump, who was in a tight race with state lawmaker James Tallarico, which is fishy. I'm adding that. Crockett told supporters Tuesday night that the race can't be settled without the results from Dallas County, which is kind of true, even though the numbers are pointing toward Tallarico. I can tell you people were disenfranchised, she said. An unfolding chaos, first over the new voting rules and then over the court decision and whether late ballots would be counted, stemmed from a change by local Republicans that is unique to Texas primary system, but also hinted at the type of uncertainty that many feared lies ahead for November's midterm elections. I mean, I want to know what this situation is, but why are we playing with an election on election day in the first place? That's the question that I have, especially for the people that are so worried about election integrity, or the party that is so worried about election integrity. A Republican change to the primaries leads to severe confusion. The problems in Texas began when voters in two counties, Dallas and Williamson, north of Austin, were turned away at polling locations and directed to different precincts after a recent change in how the primary is conducted. In Dallas County, a judge ordered polls to remain open for 2 hours past the scheduled 7 p.m. closing time, citing voter confusion so severe that it caused the website of the county election office to crash. The judge was acting on a petition filed by the local Democratic Party in a heavily left-leaning county. Democrats in Williamson said they succeeded in getting 2 precincts to stay open late. Later in the evening, the Texas Supreme Court acted on request by the Texas Attorney General's office and stayed both decisions. Its brief orders said ballots cast by voters in both counties were not in line, by 7 p.m. Scheduled close of polls should be separated. The number of ballots affected could not immediately be determined. Rena Hicks, a longtime Texas appellate lawyer, said the Supreme Court's action was preliminary and does not say whether the ballots will eventually be counted. That's something the court will have to sort out in the coming days, he said. That doesn't mean throw them away. It doesn't mean they won't count, he said. We don't know what it means. In both counties, voters had been allowed to cast their ballots anywhere in the county for years. But for this primary, the local Republican parties opted against countywide voting. State law says both major parties have to agree to the county-wide system for it to be in effect. That meant on Tuesday, all voters could cast ballots only at their assigned precinct. Voters separated by party. Both Crockett and Tallarico denounced the effect of the change on voters, with Crockett saying it was an effort to suppress the vote. I mean, obviously it was an effort to make things confusing because I don't even understand what the fuck they're talking about. Tallarico's campaign aide, geez, they write so terribly. Tallarico's campaign aide said it was deeply concerned about the reports of voters showing up at polling locations and being sent elsewhere. He told supporters later that evening, as ballots were still being tallied, that every vote must be counted. Adding to the confusion was the fact that voting locations also might be specific to someone's party affiliation, said Nick Solorzano, a spokesman for the Dallas County Elections Department. We're seeing a lot of people that are going to their vote centers that they usually go to and not realizing they can't do that anymore. They have to go to their precinct-based location, he said. The extensions in Dallas applied only to Democratic voting precincts. Voting also was extended for an hour in El Paso County after problems with voter check-in systems earlier in the day. What the fuck is going on over here, bro? Attempt to inform voters. So Texas was one of 3 states kicking off the 2026 midterm elections Tuesday, along with North Carolina and Arkansas. Voting otherwise went fairly smoothly, except for a problem with electronic poll books in one rural North Carolina county that prompted the state elections board to delay the release of statewide results by an hour. Thomas Sanchez, a student at Dallas College, was among those who showed up at a voting location on campus to cast his ballot in Texas Democratic primary, but he was under a mistaken impression and told that he needed to vote at his assigned precinct about 6 miles away and closer to his neighborhood. This is something that we're really concerned about, honestly, Solorzano said. He added that nearly 7 years of voters being able to cast their ballots anywhere in the county, then we kind of had to retool our entire operation to go back to precinct voting for election day. Yeah, but my question is like, how long did they have to tell people about this? And then why is this all of a sudden an issue? The county elections department has been putting up signs, running ads, and sending text message and mailers to make people aware of the change. On election day, forum poll workers were stationed outside voting locations with tablets to help people find the correct place to cast their ballot. Voters turned away by the hundreds. While Solorzano said his department was not keeping track of how many people had been turned away, local Democrats said the number was significant. Brenda Allen, executive director of the Dallas Democratic Party, said her offices were swamped by hundreds of calls from voters from both parties trying to find their precincts. She noted that congressional districts in the county were also remapped in Texas mid-decade redistricting, and that new district precinct lines were only finalized in December, leaving little time to inform voters. There we go. I mean, it's clear that they just we talk about democracy in the vote, and this is what they do with democracy in the vote. And you're worried about fraudulent votes and all this other stuff, but then you make it so confusing for the easiest thing that people have been doing for years. And there was no reason to remap the districts. There's no reason to cause such confusion, and then there's no reason for the Republican Party in these counties to just be like, no, we don't want to do countywide polling anymore. We want it to be at your precinct. Like, what was the point of doing that? Lots of reports of people being turned away, hundreds of people unable to vote. Both parties are affected by this, Allen said. It's not great. In Williamson County, the local Democratic Party headquarters was slammed by calls. Executive Director Madison Dickinson said, "We're having significant problems with the precinct level voting," she said, adding that in Dallas, even Republicans were confused by the change and were calling the Democratic Party for help. Republicans were less vocal about the changes online. Well, of course, because they caused them. Although the Dallas County Republican Party posted a link showing voters where to find their assigned polling places, the Williamson County Republican Party did not respond to a request for comment. That is interesting. I want to know more about that. Let's see. Texas voter confusion. Let's read another source. The right wing sides has no real. Let's go to the Gateway Pundit, I guess. I don't know. Democratic representative and Texas State Senate candidate Jasmine Crockett is already saying her election was rigged as voters are turned away due to confusion at the polls. You read that right. Crockett, a member of the party that will call you an election denier and a threat to democracy, is blaming cheating is happening in her race. Oh, conservative news outlets. Wow, that's definitely how you begin an article. You see why I start with AP at least? Jeez, oh man. Crockett previously told reporters not to use Dominion voting systems, arguing that Scott Lennendecker, a former Republican election official, had purchased the company and that it couldn't be trusted. Let's see. Democrats see a plan to undermine elections and Trump's surge of federal agents in cities. Yeah. And then that's what you did, though. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Arguing that, blah, blah, blah. Because of a new rule that required voters to cast ballots at an assigned precinct instead of anywhere, Democrats are scrambling and blaming Republicans for throwing a monkey wrench into the election. Dallas County's Democratic chief executive said, because of a new rule. So why did you need the new rule? If everybody had been doing it for years with no issue. And then everybody was under the impression that that's what was happening. And then people were out in the polls trying to vote, and then were being told that they couldn't vote and that they were at the wrong place. So Democrats and Republicans were scrambling. Interesting how this article is wording this. So Jasmine Crockett claims she's been cheated because her voters got confused and can't find their assigned voting precinct. I mean, it seems like you guys did that on purpose, though. What else can you expect from a Jasmine Crockett voter? Oh, wow. Okay. A judge in Dallas County granted an emergency petition extending polling hours until 9 p.m. in the county, citing mass confusion that was so severe that the Dallas County Election Department website crashed. So it's not just Jasmine Crockett then. It's a judge in Dallas County. So now Jasmine Crockett is crying foul play, but Jasmine Crockett's not the one that made the ruling. In a press conference earlier with House candidate Colin Allred, Crockett claimed that she's being cheated while urging voters to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you're supposed to vote.
Allred has already stated, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it. So I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you are supposed to vote, stand in line, wait in line.
I mean, that doesn't seem reasonable to me. Per the Washington Post, Crockett, who is counting on high turnout in Dallas, urged voters to stand in lines as long as possible and said that she'd join them if necessary. We should all be standing together, Democrats, Republicans, and we should all be raising hell, she said at a Dallas news conference alongside former Congressman Colin Allred shortly after a judge ordered the polls to stay open late. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be... Oh, yeah, she said that. I mean, Jordan, terribly written article, but I mean, rules are being changed. It's really weird. It's also really weird that there is a blind spot on the right about this. Let's go to another weirdo. Rep. Jasmine Crockett claims there was cheating in her Democrat primary. Yes, you read that correctly. A Democrat has claimed there was cheating in an election. I don't understand this logic. There wasn't cheating in the election that you guys said that there was cheating in. That doesn't mean that when there's cheating or an attempt to manipulate the day, that when there is actual attempts for that to happen, that shouldn't be called out. It's not that they believe that election fraud was a conspiracy theory. It was the election fraud that you were presenting was a conspiracy theory, because we know who conspired to do it. So what are we talking about here? I don't get that one. I don't get that one. This dude didn't even report on anything. All he said was, yes, you read that correctly. A Democrat has claimed that there was cheating in an election. I thought they believed election fraud was a conspiracy theory. Well, anyway, on Tuesday, as polls began to close, Jasmine Crockett, who's running for the U.S. Senate, claimed that there was cheating occurring in the Democratic Senate election in Texas. And then they just take a U.S. Today report and copy and paste it. Okay. Great journalism. Yeah. So now I want to know more about these changes. So let's do this. Texas primary changes ahead of election. Like there was no real reporting on this. I want to know the articles that it connected to. Here, let's go to CNN. See if they got it. Oh, I forgot. You guys make me fucking pay for this shit. I'm not doing that. Let's go to NBC. About voting machines. So the Texas Supreme Court temporarily blocked a lower court order to keep Dallas County polling sites open 2 extra hours Tuesday, throwing votes cast during the extended hours into question. The state's top court ordered all ballots cast by voters who were not in line before 7 p.m. local time to be separated from the... Okay, we read that. In Dallas County, the confusion is rooted in election conspiracy theories about voting machines, which propelled the Dallas County GOP to abandon county-wide voting in favor of precinct-level voting and led... Okay, so Texas Republican in some counties are pushing to count ballots by hand in next year's primary. Critics warn the move, which requires more time, money, and staffers, could lead to confusion, errors, and delayed results. And, well, it did. So this is from November 19th last year. Republicans in at least half a dozen counties in Texas are considering to have made plans to count ballots by hand in next March primary elections, a move that's financially costly and could inject uncertainty into key contests. Texas Republicans who are pushing for the shift argue that voting machines that normally handle the process are unreliable. So I thought that you said that Jasmine Crockett said it. Crockett previously told supporters not to use Dominion voting systems. And then come to this article, which is also on November 25th. Oh, I see. She did say. Okay. Man. But anyway, so both sides were doing it, basically. Anyway, so Texas Republicans who are pushing for the shift argue that voting machines that normally handle the process are unreliable, a position President Donald Trump and his allies have been pushing for years despite lack of evidence. But voting experts and Democrats warn that hand counting could result in errors, delays, and final results and post-election litigation. Texas tasks political parties rather than local governments with running election day voting in primaries, giving partisan officials unusual say over election administration. Democrats and Republicans in the state often administer elections jointly, outsourcing the job to county elections officials, and their expenses are reimbursed by a Secretary of State. But this time around, Republicans in some Texas counties want to run their elections on their own, planning to conduct them at the precinct level so they can hand count ballots on election day. And that's what Crockett is complaining about. According to interviews with party leaders and activists and Texas Republicans in Dallas, Hayes, Eastland, and Gillespie counties have approved plans to hand count ballots in next year's primary. Orange County Republicans also approved plans over the summer to hand count election day ballots, according to local media. And at least one other county, Denton, is considered a similar measure. Hand counting ballots isn't easy. In Texas, the election code requires that ballots be counted within 24 hours of polls closing, and the precinct's presiding judges are unable to leave polling sites until counting is finished, which would force someone to remain on site for as long as 36 hours. Ooh, that's harsh. Dallas and Hayes County Republicans are raising funds to cover the extra costs, and asking people to sign up for marathon sessions for counting, for which they will be paid $12 an hour. Ooh. Gee whiz, gee willikers. A hand count could cost larger counties hundreds of thousands of dollars, but even small counties would most likely incur sizable costs. State officials have told county parties not to expect reimbursement for costs in excess of recent election estimates. This is something that all across Texas and all across the nation, people are starting to be interested in, said Alan West, chair of the Republican Party. No, it just seems like you guys. It seems like because at the polls, everyone was confused. That's the problem. They were confused at the polls. In Dallas County, right here in Dallas County. Oh wait, blah blah blah. Earlier in the evening, Dallas County judge ordered Democratic polling sites to stay open for an additional 2 hours. So that's confusing. And why did Dallas County have to do that? Because it was so confusing. Dallas County. Was I on the same article? No, I was reading something else. I can't fix the machine. I don't know about algorithms and all these things that consistently continue to happen. So I think the pure definition of insanity is continue to do the same exact thing and think. So then maybe you shouldn't be in charge of the election stuff if you don't understand how it works. That doesn't mean that you get to just make it confusing for your county and then be like, oh, we don't want to do countywide voting anymore. We want to do precincts because I don't understand how technology works, even though I put it in the polling stations. State officials, including Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton, have disputed some of West's claims of voting machine failures in Dallas County. Even your own man's is contradicting you. Your old man's is contradicting you, saying recent issues in pre-election testing were identified and resolved. Any issues with hand count in Texas next year could lead to drama in a competitive Republican primary for the Senate, as John Cornyn faces challenges from Paxton and Wesley Hunt. Texas is also hosting primaries for governor, House, and blah, blah, blah. Democrats will be forced to run their elections at the precinct level too, since the state allows countywide polling sites only if both parties agree to use them. So that was the thing. So that's what I was reading before. Before what I was reading, they were saying that countywide polling sites only do it countywide if both parties agree, and the Republicans didn't agree. Therefore, it turned into this stuff. It's a huge duplicative process that shouldn't have to happen, Shutter said in an interview. What will happen in Dallas County is both parties will have to recruit each about 2,300 election workers, and they'll have to have about 500 different locations for people to vote in. And Republicans will have to recruit an additional 3,600 people to try to get the ballots counted within 24 hours. And because they're doing it by hand instead of doing it by optical scan, they'll have human error in their counts where we won't. Hand counting's popularity has grown in GOP circles in the wake of unfounded stolen election claims Trump and his allies pushed after his 2020 loss. So that other weirdo article that was written was like, oh, now the Democrats believe in election fraud. No, they believe in when you're clearly trying to manipulate an election, though. Yeah, that's interesting. So then what is the final count for Texas then? Is it over? Yeah, I mean, I guess that part is pretty square. I don't know these districts. I don't know how these districts work. I'm not familiar with how Texas is set up, but it looks like it was a pretty close race for the most part. But is this Dallas? Yeah. Yeah, they wanted to cause an issue. They definitely wanted to cause an issue. And then to me it seems they wanted to cause an issue in order to then say what they said, since they're not even really reporting on it. The Washington Times just copied this headline. Yeah, the right isn't really talking about this. Plain dealer. Oh, I got the plain dealer in my city, so I thought this was mine. Nope. All right. So when it comes to Jasmine Crockett versus James Tallarico, James won. Clearly, he's the nominee, and now we get to see what it's going to look like on statewide, especially considering that Texas hasn't voted for a Democrat, especially in the statewide election, in a long time. And in this case, I have a feeling that it's going to change over. I think it was going to change over no matter who the nominee was going to be. But Tallarico is the guy. And for myself, I tried to inject myself in the beginning because Jasmine, like, in my personal thoughts, I mean, who am I, right? What influence am I going to have on Texas politics? But the reason why I was interested in it is because Jasmine Crockett is a national figure and has been out there, going back and forth with Trump and the governor of Texas and all that kind of stuff like that. So overall, at the end of the day, when it came to their politics, hold on, let me search for something real quick. Did Jasmine Crockett lose her? So when it comes to their politics, to me, especially if you are a Democrat who is on the national stage or is being put on the national stage, such as a Texas Senate seat, then the party is going to be looking for who they think is going to do what's best. And so where Jasmine Crockett even came from, because I thought that she was good in her role as a congresswoman in her district. But there was that whole situation with the the whole situation with establishing whether she was going to lose her seat or not. So what I'm trying to find is Jasmine not losing her seat. So Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett has not lost her congressional seat, continuing to serve Texas 30th Congressional District, which covers parts of Dallas. Tarrant County's Crockett, who was first assumed office in 2023, succeeded longtime Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, has quickly established herself as a blah, 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 blah. In the 20 retained her seat by winning a divisive margin over her challengers. Her victory reaffirmed strong support among her constituents in a district known for its Democratic leanings. Despite facing opposition from third-party candidates, she managed to secure a commanding percentage of the vote, demonstrating huge trust, blah, blah. Her win also signaled that Crockett's political influence remains robust in Texas politics. Analysts point to her blah, 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 blah. Tenure in Congress has been marked. So I was under the impression that she was running because she lost her seat because of the redistricting. Not because she lost an election. So that's what I was looking for. Did Jasmine Crockett lose? I mean, she didn't, because they're showing that. Hold on. Oh, I see. That's what it was. This is the one right here. So she has not, her home address is potentially being shifted into a new district, which doesn't change anything about her representing her current district. So edit from a source to those interested in the Crockett's conundrum. Just in case you're curious, basically, Crockett currently lives in the 30th district. Her home address will now be in the 33rd district, which is a Democratic seat. The 30th will now be more red. So her challenge is continue to represent the 30th post redistricting, which puts her in a race against a Republican in a more red area, or represent the district her home will be in and face another Democrat who also would not longer live in his currently represented district due to these maps. So the answer is no, she has not lost her seat, and they haven't eliminated her position in any way, but it's certainly a difficult decision. Okay, so like I said, that's what I was under the impression of, because that's what they're arguing about. But she just wanted to go, she clearly just wanted to go to the Senate because she wanted to go to the Senate. So my question always was, why were the Democrats putting Tallarico in front of Crockett when she was vulnerable because she was losing her district, and that's the reason why she was going to run for the Senate in the first place. So now having that part cleared up, right? Looking at the situation as a whole, ultimately, these two outlooks overall on policy are the same. And where I was at with it was, I personally don't want to see another white guy in politics, especially when there's the ability for someone else too. In this case, a black woman. And a black woman who seemingly was doing what she needed to be doing on a national sense, even though I question her policy choices and decisions on a foreign sense. And then even when it comes to that, when you take a look at the foreign politics policies of both candidates, they're pretty similar. So the issue that I've always had with this Texas race was why it is that people feel that they have to vote, how they think that the white guy is the one that can win and not the black person, right? So then they say, oh, it's Texas, and you know, that's how it is. Okay, well, aren't you proving the point then? Wouldn't it be in your best interest at that point to then show up and show out for what would be different to make it different? But then as the more I got into how these people move, to be honest with you, if I was voting in Texas, even though I don't want to see another white guy in politics, I probably would have voted for Tallarico. And then that is making the best decision out of the decision that's being made, using every available avenue to make the decision. Jasmine Crockett being a educated, credentialed, qualified, confident, competent black woman weighed very heavily on the scale. But how she moved with the media, how she moved on Israel, how she moves when she's backed into a corner, I don't like it. And ultimately, Tallarico wasn't really backed into a corner, but with how he moves, how he had to move with what you would call him being backed in a corner, seems to me like that is someone that would be more susceptible to being held accountable to making courageous choices, to me, ultimately. But I'm not in Texas. So since I'm not in Texas, I wanted the black woman to win. I mean, it's just weird how that all works, right? You have this impassioned, in detailed, half informed, because I'll admit I was misinformed on thinking Jasmine Crockett lost her seat, but half informed diatribe could be so all over the place and ultimately support them both. But that to me is how I kind of felt that Texas needed to handle the situation in the first place. I think that Tallarico wasn't in Jasmine Crockett's district. I'm not sure where Tallarico's district is or was, or where he was stationed at, but I'm sure that the Democratic Party could have found something to put Tallarico in that would have bolstered his bona fides, if you will, right? And made him a name, while putting all your energy in Jasmine Crockett to take that Senate seat. Because not only would it have been good for Jasmine Crockett to one, be in the Senate, two, it would have broken the Texas hold on statewide elections, and then three, it would have broken hold of Texas's Republican the Republican hold on Texas statewide elections. And the reason why there was a hold on statewide elections is for the reason why you think that you had to put Tallarico in the first place. So if the black woman who would have gotten the seat and broken the hold, that would have pissed off Texas Republicans way more. That would have scrambled their brains way more. If you would have focused your energy on that, put Tallarico in something else, then when another thing came up, you could have Tallarico and Crockett in the Senate at the same time, instead of arguing with each other over very basic, narrow discrepancies. I don't know. It's a bad look. And again, I think overall, when you list it all out and weigh the pros and cons, I do believe that the overall best candidate won. But Jasmine Crockett is something that you do need, especially in a national setting where you have Congress, which is a perfect segue for what I want to get into next, where you have Congress pussyfooting over what they're going to do to this administration for violating the war powers. I mean, this is at this point, there is no reason to deny that war powers are being violated. The Constitution is being violated. What's the word I'm looking for? Procedures are being violated. Innocent American service members are innocent. Children are being killed. Service members are being killed for no reason. We need people in the Senate that are not going to buckle like a Schumer, like a Jeffries, and that are going to stand up and not give a f what the cameras are or what the decorum of the camera is going to look like, and hold somebody accountable. Some of the senators who came back from the briefing, which I want to get into, have been doing that, but we do need a firebrand type of person that is going to hold these people accountable, because the old guard ain't. They're not. And if y'all gonna be cowards, we're gonna need someone that's not gonna be a coward. And from what I'm seeing, Tallarico is a good choice. All power to him. Hope he wins. But show some fire, brother. Show some fire, along with being able to, talk to the cult members, since that was a big thing. So, Congress taking first votes on Iran wars. Debate rages about U.S. goals. I've been asking since Saturday, what's Congress doing about this? And when is Congress going to do something about this? And it seems like the Senate's going to do it today, and the House should do it tomorrow. And then, so let me go to AP, and they'll break it down a little bit more, because I wanna also find and talk about the clips and the statements from the senators who, had the briefing already and came back from the briefing. Cherie 212, one question before you move on. What's going on? Question, what you got? What do you see as prospects for dim win now that Crockett has conceded? What do you see as the prospects for a dim win? Dim win. So again, I'm not in Texas, so I'm looking at it from a overall strategic point of view, right? And strategy wise, like I said, I don't think that putting Tallarico in the middle of Jasmine Crockett was a good move. But since that's the move that you're going to make, even though Tallarico, when you compare the two, the overall better candidate, Jasmine Crockett was the candidate that you need right now, right? So since Tallarico is the one in place, and Texas is saying that he's the one that can win, the question needs to be asked, and this is the question that I would always ask, and this is kind of the reason why I came back, because people like say stuff, and like, what do you mean by that? So when people say Tallarico is the one that can win, because win Texas, because you know how Texas is. How is Texas? So are you saying that you need this white guy to be able to talk to the town hominess of these cult members to get them to move over? Is that what you're trying to accomplish? Or are you trying to get your party to come out? And are you trying, and through the enthusiasm of your party, get apathetic people from the other side? And ultimately, also, who cares about the other side? outside of the fact that Texas is big red, right? So what we're gonna have to see from them is, and again, what I want to see, like I was saying at the end of my rant, is I want to see Tallarico be a firebrand. You want to be in the Senate, right, Tallarico? Okay, well, now you're the nominee, and this dude is violating congressional war powers. Firebrand right now. You firebrand right now, you win. You win. It's handed to you. You get on TV right now and you gosh darn get a little bit red with your little, and you raise your voice a little bit, just like the AP article said. Oh, Tallarico doesn't raise his voice. Raise your voice a little bit, bruh. We gonna need to see it. And then while you raise your voice, also do the thing that they also say you're good at, which is use your little town homie, I'm at home, I'm good with these folks rhetoric to get them to realize y'all messing up. And what you will do then, Tallarico, you'll piss off the vanguard, which is, they need that. They need to be scared. You're gonna piss off the Schumers and the Jeffries and them. You're gonna piss them off because they want things to be all nice and smooth. And if you're Mr. Nice and Smooth is getting a little red and wrangled, they're gonna have to act. And then you got this dude who's just a nominee leading the charge for the whole Democrat. That's how you win Texas. Boom. Texas right there in the palm of your hand, eating out of the palm of your hands. I can just see it. And me as a leftist who doesn't even care about this party and only really was paying attention because I was trying to see how people was reacting and treating, and I'm digging into Jasmine Crockett because that's what I cared about. As a leftist and don't even care about this, you would get me to come out. I mean, I would anyway, because I if I lived in Texas, because we got to do what we got to do, even though we don't necessarily agree. But that's my point. People were not enthusiastic about Tallarico. Exactly. He's gonna have to change that. He's gonna have to change the enthusiasm part. And it's funny because people weren't enthusiastic about Tallarico, but they voted for him though. And why did you vote for him? So that same reason why you voted for him is gonna have to be the same reason why you overly push him out there. But Tallarico can make it super easy for himself, but hard for all the rest of the Democrats, but super easy for himself to just be a firebrand, start getting red and yapping and using that, like I said, that hometown talk. Texas is blue. My prediction is that unless a serious intervention occurs, the Dems have lost the general election. Well, if you mean by serious intervention, the Iran war, I think there's that part. But then at the same time, if the Democrats as a party can show a backbone, that will help push momentum. But yeah, ultimately, this is the last few straws before that camel's back is broke. His last few straws. You remember that game? What was that game back in the day with the marbles? Oh my God. I'm sorry. It just popped in my head and I can't get it out of my head. What is the game with the marbles? The game where you pull out sticks with marbles. What was that game? Kerplunk. Oh my God. This is it. This is Kerplunk. This is the last stick in the Kerplunk. This is the last stick in the Kerplunk that once you let that stick out, all the marbles is going to drop. Black people are not going to vote for him. Well, they aren't going to the polls to ensure he wins. Right. I get that. I get it. And I was reading reading one of the articles I think it was this one right here. The question for Tallarico as he heads into the general election campaign is whether he can generate enthusiasm from voters who opted for Crockett because they saw her as a more progressive fighter. Blah, blah. AP yapping. But basically what I took that at the moment was, I think that the Democratic voters in Texas overall, maybe not specifically black folks, but overall, I think that the Democratic voters in Texas seem to be enthusiastic enough to show out enough to make the race a race. What Tallarico is going to have to do is generate enough enthusiasm from the apathetic public to pull into those numbers. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I may have said something about black voters, but I was hoping that some Texas black voters would be in chat like they are right now to ask that question, because I didn't know for sure, but probably would need enthusiasm from the black folks. That's why overall I think he is specifically for overall national United States politics the better candidate, but Jasmine Crockett is the best person to have for right now, because you're going to have your black folks come out to vote. You're going to have them energized and ready. And then she going to be over there clocking tea. And then you're going to have the Democratic Party apparatus, especially in Texas, energized and ready and go because they won an election finally. You know what I'm saying? And then through that, and this is the reason why I don't understand why Jasmine wasn't the focus of the race in the first place, why they even needed to have this be as soon as Jasmine Crockett, who won her, and I think, Height, if you're still around, I was asking you this before. I thought that Jasmine lost her seat because of the redistricting, and I just cleared myself up on that one, even though that wasn't a matter for me anymore. But in the beginning, that's what I was thinking, was that she lost her seat due to the redistricting, but she didn't lose her seat to the redistricting. She won her seat again. She just wanted to go to the Senate. All right, boom. As soon as she did that, Democrats should have been like, yo, we got you. You just won your election for your seat again. We gonna put money up on you so you can win this other part. If James Tallarico was such a rising star the way that he was, make him the mayor of his damn city since he's a state rep. Make him a mayor. If there was no other congressional seats, make him a state senator. I'm sure that there was some other election that he could have put himself in, put him into the Democratic Party apparatus, have him walk around doing some Pete Buttigieg speeches, then run him for the next election. Now you got Tallarico and Crockett. You got your fire and your ice. I mean, what is we doing here? Hometown talk is antithetical to black support. Right, but I'm making that point about you got to be a firebrand while using the hometown talk at the same time. He's gonna have to be Jasmine and James. That's what I'm saying. If he wants to get the black vote back, he's gonna have to firebrand. He's gonna have to gosh darn it. And somebody from his team's gonna have, I just got done watching the Avengers, Age of Ultron, and that was the Avengers movie where Captain America, since he's the good old American boy, somebody had said like shit or something like that, and he was like, language, and that was like the running joke for the movie. He's Captain America. James Tallarico's Captain America. Well, James, you're gonna have to gosh darn yourself a couple of times and get red, and black people will be like, okay. I mean, he did call them out though. I mean, he ain't Jasmine, but he did call them out. And then you continue to show up, they may show out. On the other hand, he's gonna have to gee golly willikers. He's gonna gosh darn and gee golly. But that's what I'm saying. The better candidate is the person who can win. She wasn't the focus, right? Latino men in Texas in general do not vote for women when there is a white male, Latino male option available. So So since we do, man, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, you don't have to. I'm asking to make this conversation flow a little bit easier. If you would like, I have this topic as a main topic because, one, I wanted to talk about this, especially on the bigger Jasmine Crockett, the whole APAC, blah, 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 all that stuff like that. One, and then two, I was hoping to either run into you or him and then have y'all school me on exactly how this works. So if you would like, you don't have to, we could do a Discord call and have it go that way. If not, we could do it in chat. It's all good. It's just make the conversation a little bit easier. But Latino men in Texas in general do not vote for women, right? I mean, sure. So my question would be, why isn't the party asking what they need to do to change that mentality? Like I just and maybe again I'm being naive to how centrist and bland the Democratic apparatus may be, especially in Texas. But I mean, I'm just thinking about this strategically. If I'm the Democratic Party and I'm looking at all in Texas and I'm looking at all these candidates and I got this chick that's on national news every single day, getting everybody across the country, amped because she's calling truth to, I wouldn't even call it power, calling truth to coward, right? And then I go and I look at my numbers here and I see, damn, like we're losing here in this winter. Why is it that Latino men don't want to vote? I mean, I get it, but what would make them? I get that they don't, but what would make them do it? Jasmine Crockett was gerrymandered out of her district, same number, but she was outside of it. Right. So she was gerrymandered outside of it. But that's what made me think that she lost it. Like the way I thought that it went was because she didn't live in the district anymore. She couldn't represent the district that she was representing, but Texas don't really care about that. So that wasn't the issue. She wanted to run for Senate. So then my real question is, was Tallarico running for Senate before Jasmine Crockett? Like, who decided to run for Senate first? They're not going to give me what I want. I see. Okay. So it was Tallarico, but that was in 2024. Yeah. So, I mean, even there, but she wasn't pushed out of her seat though. That's what I thought. I thought that she wasn't pushed out of her seat because she could still represent. She could still represent the district. She just didn't live in it. Oh, is this a new one? This is not what I'm looking for. So state law defines that residency requirements are harder to enforce. Almost every election cycle, certain candidates for Texas legislature and Congress face allegations they don't live in the districts they're trying to represent, and this year's no different. And this is an old article, but I'm just trying to catch myself up with it. I see. Okay. So then I was right. I was right then. The reason why she was running for Senate is because her seat got redistricted. Let me do this. Give me 1 second. I'm not friends with you on here. I'm gonna send you. I just messaged you. I'm gonna send you a call. I'm gonna send you a call on that one. Will that work? Or do you want an actual link? Because I don't have like a link. I don't have like a server. I got rid of all that. You want me to do it that way? I can do it that way. Like that. Hello? No? You don't want to do it that way? How do I Okay. I sent it. I sent the request and then boom. Hello? Oh, hold on. Settings. Why are you not? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Let me change.
Oh, it's easier. We're both here, so we can both talk.
Okay. Here, let me.
Yeah, we're both here, so we can both.
Let me adjust the volume here real quick.
Okay.
Settings. Oh my God. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I'm still here.
Turn that down just a tad. Okay. All right. How you guys doing today?
We are doing just fine. So one of the things, I guess I'll just talk so you can figure out where the volume should be.
Yeah.
In the meantime, but one of the things is that in explaining what happened to Jasmine, she was running. She was running, right? But well, actually, she wasn't running. Let's talk about Talladega. He was raced and running against black guy. Then abruptly, Colin Albright dropped out of the race, and then when Jasmine Crockett got to the race, and in the midst of all of these things, the jerry rigging, what I like to call the jerry rigging of these districts. So And the bottom line is that she, in terms of her House of Representative seat, was blocked out. She was much looking at like, lose that for Senate. Basically, the only way you're going to stay in. That's when she began to run against Tallarico. Get what we get. Everybody has kind of accepted that it's a red state, and of course, in the metro area, we're going to be have predominantly Democratic areas of the state. The city of Houston, the city of Dallas, the city of Austin, and so on. So, what you also have to look at is the happened in the country that is voter groups. Like, let's just take Latino voters, for instance. Latino voters, as well as the rest of us, have not liked what has happened with immigration. While many of them had been voting Republican, moving over to Democrat support. Just because they might be willing to vote for a Democrat, to vote for the Black woman, because you are still up against sexism and racism, and this is, like I said, the patriarchy, cultural thing forming whom the person would be willing to vote for. And when you look at the numbers, I'm not saying what I'm talking what the not polls, but what these groups of voters, who they tend to vote for. The thing you have to look at with this race and Jasmine is that the reason that so many people were signed in Dallas, which, by the way, many of the voters in Dallas were disenfranchised by last rule changes,
right,
where they showed up
right,
at their poll places, couldn't vote, whole complication. Except that, let's just say she conceded. We're in a position where the only was for it. So in a midterm election, getting Black voters to come back when you're gonna be stuck with what you have. Yes, we go down in flames with everybody.
So
at the end of the day.
So I don't mean to cut you off, because I'm hearing you out here, yeah, and you're making very, very valid point. You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if that's on your end or my end.
Because I'm on speaker.
Okay.
But yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, finish your point, because you were breaking up at the crux of it, and I was like, "Ooh, it's getting good."
but that was really my point. Is just that, so now that Jasmine Crockett's not in there anymore, Black voters came out to vote for her, and nobody excited about Tallarico. And also questions, I shouldn't say nobody. Voters are not excited about Tallarico, and you Black and other minority voters, or for the Democrats to actually win the seat. Okay, so it's a miscalculation. Think that we're going to win without this Black, because I think they broke in the turnout for the primaries of your election. Right? If you're going to win without strong support of the Black voter coming out, then you're. And if they think they're going to also win by just saying, "Oh, everybody who for Jasmine," different, it might be different if it was a presidential, because voters make a little bit more of an effort to be at the polls anyway. To say I'm going to go deliberately to make sure I vote for Tallarico, a lot of people are not going to feel that.
Right.
It's logical, or that is just the reality that we're dealing with.
Okay. So, I guess one of the questions that I would have had, or that I have looking at from the outside in, is before the election, I guess to the run up, did any of their policy positions matter, or was it, I don't want to say like they didn't matter and it was just a vibe check, but like, was it one of those, we seen how Jasmine works in action, we see what she does, we see what she does in the community, so we support that, we ain't seen you? Or is it, we're looking at, how they move, what they vote on, how they think about things? Was any of that a concern?
Name recognition is important. Tallarico is, a state legislator. So he doesn't have the same name recognition across the board that Jasmine has on a national.
Right.
People beyond Texas probably didn't even know who he was. I didn't even know who he was really until I'm like, okay, this who's running for the seat, blah, 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 right? But so you have that to contend with. I think people were really paying attention to their seats per se, because people are so desperate to not have same Republican split in the Congress. Listen, you can send a Democrat, any Democrat will do. But the important thing is that the Democrat win. If you're a Democrat and you're trying to go. Look at who's capable of winning. Jasmine Crockett, me still was a lot capable of winning, had the chance, but you against whoever it turns out to be, whether that's Patton, but it looks like it'll be Cornyn, who is the incumbent, right? Republican side that they would be facing off with. I think Jasmine Crockett has a better chance of winning up against whoever it turns out to be.
Right.
Because that's like really black and white, the difference, saying if you want something different, you need to do this over here, because people have been unhappy the way the gone with the Republican-led Congress, or a lot of.
Right. Okay. And so, I mean, so that's why for me, I guess from the outside in, at first when it was, I guess when it was for sure that these two were gonna butt heads or whatever, and how the initial kind of like marketing of that kind of went out, I kind of fell back a little bit after taking a look at things, because I was like, I don't see any real differences between these two, and I'm turned off because she clearly was such a threat that they had to get rid of her district. If that doesn't give you so much momentum ball rolling, I don't know what to tell you. And then so when considering that Tallarico announced first, I again could have seen the kind of the same thing that what was the Allred, right? Didn't they? Or not Allred. Who was the pastor?
She was not a threat. Okay, let's be clear. Not a threat from just being a threat. The only threat that she really posed was that this is a Democratic seat, and of course she's going to be reelected. The threat. Jasmine Crockett was not like, I'm about to run for Senate, but that's more in the state of Texas. Or she could have stayed. She would have stayed her, in her district. And I remember when they were doing the gerrymandering, and the court said no, use the old map of and stuff. Relieved because it was like a reprieve. Oh, okay, okay. Thank goodness. That map play this year, or in 2020, and then it went to court and reversed, right? So they could use the new districts or the new districting, and that's wind up where we voice clearly was to stay in the House of Representatives. She knew she would really win, and she was very where she was, and it was all good. Percentage to be percentage, but the run Senate was a long shot. Just get pushed out of Congress because she was not more than likely going to win. Ran the House of Representatives because the people who were now in this new district that they would make, already had, the representative that they were loyal going to win in that situation. I mean, we just saw with, another victim of redistricting, what's it? Green. Al Green, yeah.
Oh, really? He got redistricted out of his spot? I didn't even see that.
Basically, so he ended up running again. So, it's going to, he lost. Black, yeah, it's another district. It's another black guy who looks like he might win, or at least as of last night, because I haven't looked at that particular district this morning.
Oh, he's in Texas. Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. So, but this was the whole point, was so that they could get that. I think they wanted at least 5 more seats, right, for the Republicans. What they want about Jasmine Crockett particularly, to get back to my original point, it was about getting the seats.
Right.
And okay, well, if we're at, because how it is, make sure that the seats that we district are going to white minority, or and in this case with these two, representation, right?
Why is it doing that? I'm sorry. I that last part it's really starting to like chop up really bad. I'm trying to see if there's something on my end. I don't know if there's anything I can do.
No, it may just be, I don't know if it's that I'm on speaker, but hopefully you got the gist.
Yeah, I did, definitely. I mean, so I guess, so as actual Texas voters who are going to be making this decision here soon, what is it that you specifically are looking, or what is it that you specifically are looking for? And then what do you think would need to be done in order to get the goal that needs to be done accomplished?
I'm specifically not looking for anything, because as far as I'm concerned, they're all on some BS. So I have a very pessimistic view of where we stand right now. So yeah, from a personal perspective, I'm just like, you kind of know the rules of the road if you're living with Texas, in Texas as a Black person anyway. Especially if you live somewhere smaller that is not in a bigger city. There's that. But as far as what I think would really need to happen, Crockett would literally need to go to every campaign stop with Tallarico to be his buddy pal and convince people, galvanize them to come out. And even then, I think it's a long.
Yeah.
However, what I will say is that what happens in national Republican politics and international politics, especially considering the war that we're in right now, go bad with that can fare well for the Democrats.
Right.
Gas getting real high. People can't afford food. It's going to matter less, and that will fare well for. That would be my.
Right. Okay. All right. And I'm quickly looking into this Al Green thing. Damn, they really didn't they didn't even want this election. Like, the only reason why it's happening is because of the maps. And so again, a firebrand, someone who's out there holding truth to coward in very optical ways of Al Green. Every speech this guy makes, Al Green's always doing something. I'm waiting for the Al Green thing whenever there's a speech. Now he has to go and run off against this young guy who I think they were.
Runoff now? Is that what it is now? I haven't read this morning, so he didn't win.
Who, Menifee or Green?
Green didn't win.
Oh, damn. But so that's what I'm saying. Okay, so the quick thing that I was reading was,
so they are going to do a runoff.
Okay. Menifee and Green were both representatives in their own districts, and then the gerrymandering mixed them together. Is that what it was?
Basically, basically. And then the rule is that, get at least 50%, there will be a runoff.
Right. And that's where they're at right now. And so he lost the runoff.
Right. Al Green is not completely out now, but the experts say that if an incumbent, technically he might be, because the other guy is technically an incumbent too, in a way, right? Because they both have seats, but because of the gerrymandering, when it doesn't usually fare well. I do think Al Green is probably more vulnerable to losing his seat. That so.
Well, I mean, I don't know nothing about this Menifee dude, but I mean, he seems like a young with it, progressive type of, I don't know nothing about him, just what he looks like. But
well, I don't know much about him, but I will say last night when I did get the opportunity to see part of his speech, he called Al Green out by name and said, this time I've never said anything negative about a candidate. Talk all that mess about me and da-da-da. So he already started bumping his gums in a way that I felt was very disrespectful to kind of an older generation fight, if you will, because at the end of the day, you are still the same fight for the things that, compromised communities or that disadvantaged communities need, with blacks, browns, voters, and poor white, other people who would tend to be ignored.
Right.
Public.
Oh man, this stuff
that wasn't a good flavor for me, but that's all I know of him is, maybe everything else that was just amazing and lovely, but
the disrespect for your elders, especially when they're showing up. I mean, if it was like if he was running against Nancy Pelosi or something, I hear where you're coming from. Pop off, King. But like, this is someone that's like for real been actually holding it down, especially in the state of Texas. I mean, granted, I definitely we do need some new blood from time to time, and some of the old greats sometimes got to take a back seat. I get that, but man, just I don't understand. That's why I remember when I first got out of the military, that and Height and I we was trying to do the uppest political party, and I even gonna try to run for mayor of the city that I was in. As soon as I went door to door and they started telling me what was going on in the city, I don't want to be involved in this. I don't want nothing to do with this. And then during that time period also, it's a funny story that I tell. I'm going around knocking on doors, talking to people like, hey, I'm thinking about being married, see, what would you like to see change in the city? And someone was like, changing, having the police department go to the Cleveland Federal Building and put drugs in the city. I said, what? And then a couple of weeks later, I see it happen with my own eyes. There's no way that I'm going to be able to vote and have things change around here, especially considering the mayor and his brother and his other brother did something with some lady and he's a cop, and it's just all messed up. So then when you put that on like a statewide or even a national politic, I mean, I'm just trying to stay informed so I can be informed. But this being is hyper informed makes me want to do community action, and that's what we really truly need, instead of sitting here hoping that a Green is gonna help us out or a Jasmine Crockett gives us the best chance, even though she kind of suspect and a lot of stuff she be doing and moving and all that kind of stuff too. But that's kind of who I wanted, even though I don't live there. Instead of dealing with all that, we should be dealing with each other. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at with it.
Where they get mixed up, I think, is that thinking that we are still 2016 or 2020 even, are at a point of an existential threat to life as we know it, to our lives, period. And so the approach needs to be different. But unfortunately, I don't think that people who are either in politics or watching it get that's where we, and probably is going to be too late by the time that they realize. To have some recent experiences with what happened during COVID in terms of just the flow of goods, products, and price hikes, and that we endured when the world started, so to speak. At least informed the folks who had never experienced that, right? But people are still drinking and dancing and being merry in the streets, and like what's happening is not. And there's nothing that I don't think there's anything that any one person who does get it is going to be convinced people. Not normal. It's a big deal. And the fact for so long, election, it's essential threat. This is they've wolfed so many times that people that their ears are just deaf to that message. But we're there now. We are there now. We're on the precipice of still up stuff, and we shall all find out soon. So the notion of who's better and taxes can be lower and all of that, at the end of the day, focus on keeping food low and worry about that with what these people are talking about. But also should be looking at, like, okay, so the that we've been can just go around the world and all of this other is dramatic, because that's going to change our existence. Standing in the world has changed the standing. I mean, for goodness sakes, even the conversations about Greenland.
Yeah,
people don't realize where we are. due
They
to
don't.
being uninformed, and also due
Yeah.
to watching the news. It's entertainment. So that's my soapbox on that.
Right. And I mean, and that
Question
is
about-
why even though my stream format probably isn't the most entertaining, especially because I'm willingly and like openly almost every article, I mean, I know like the background, maybe like, you know, foundational context, but like I'm walking into these articles blind and figuring out and going to other articles and figuring out what was going on like real time, because one,
But
I
the
want people to
problem
see
is
it.
that- The problem is that news is not the news it used to be anymore anyway. And so now we're to a point where, you know, many of wingers have bought out CBS. They've bought out media companies because we are
Oh,
been in the idea of manufacturing consent. Definitely are there now. So the news that you're seeing, even article, I don't care how many articles you like, you're gonna have on your and understanding the history, as well as just only looking for facts. Like, okay, this percentage, they forget any type of interpretation.
right.
That's where we are right now. So hopefully we have done our homework to, you know, have in our minds what the history is, because to a website, the history is changing on U.S. government websites. So, you know,
I was
you have
recently
something
talking
earlier.
to someone that I don't want to say like I don't want to say like I respected them, but like I didn't have any issues with them as a person or whatever. And we were getting into it because I believe it was Charlie Kirk. And what I was trying to get them to understand is that like I'm not how they are arguing with me is just showing me that you just see headlines and you don't know what these headlines are. And then while I'm trying to give them the context of like why he's racist, well, that doesn't seem racist. Well, it's racist if you understand this. And someone who is working for a multi-billion-dollar think tank knows this information, and that's specifically why he's twisting it this way. Things such as that, you know. And it got to a point where like I said it out loud, and I probably shouldn't have, but I was like, are you illiterate? Like, are you just not understanding what you're saying? And she's like, no, I'm not illiterate. I get my information from the .gov websites because that's who's going to tell me the truth the most. And I said, okay, so you're not only like functionally illiterate, you do not know where to get sources of information. And then like you're literally putting your whole idea of who I am as a person, even though you know me like personally, off of the fact that you don't understand what I'm talking about right now, because you have whatever preconceived notions in your mind of what, you know, race is or whatever is, and you don't even know what it is. And I'm trying to show you exactly, like, I mean, it's hard for me to have conversations in general, because when people do like the small talky, like half true facts thing just to carry the conversation, I can't do that. I'm sorry. Like, what is that? Did you sure? Can we look that up? Is that truly what it is? Because if we're gonna continue to have this conversation on this wrong thing here, I've wasted time talking to you. I wanted to maybe learn from you for something, or maybe you learn from me or something like that. That's kind of like where I'm at with it, and how I see people go through headlines and go through, especially with this election, it turned into who likes AIPAC more or whatever. And that's where I was at with it. My big thing at the time was between those two, who was anti-Israel the most. And I know y'all both ain't, but who's willing to do it the most? And Jasmine immediately disappointed the shit out of me. But my overall thing of, since they're so narrowly close, and I know why they're narrowly close, and I know why these, even though they're saying different things to different audiences, ultimately their policies, when you parse it all out, are basically the same thing, minus Jasmine being a little more openly pro-Israel. I would rather see this black woman be in this office, or if not, it be as close as it was, and then we can carry this momentum forward and do what needs to be done. But when I talk to other people, it's not that.
For you to consider beyond the point of no return on trying to convince people of things that, you know, what their ideals ought to be. They the world. Like, we just have to accept that they see how they see, because we're in a critical moment where the time to convince people what I say is right. Either you listen or you don't. Hopefully, if you don't listen, here are the breadcrumbs, and hopefully you find your way, because
Right.
the train is leaving the station, left the station. So that's the first thing on the pro. And like, we can get lost wondering who's pro and who's anti and who's pro of anything to do with that country over there that has committed a genocide against the Palestinians.
Right.
Okay, but here's the thing about that. We just assume that they are all pro to some degree, and that tells us everything that we need to know. Okay, you're taking money from people who are pro, and therefore you have to kind of dance to the beat of their nasty money to.
Well, what was that last one? It broke up real hard right there. I didn't hear that.
It's a nasty game. Politics is a nasty game. So in order to have the money you need to run, for us to even know your name,
right,
and bed with somebody, then us arguing.
That's
about
what I hate, when people be like, "Man, I hear you, bro. You should run for something, bro. I don't got no money, and ain't nobody trying to give me no money. So organizing your community."
The players are set. Players are set. So rather than focusing on, I'm going to argue about the bottom line is this: if we want to change, if people want things to change, the best chance for change would be to change the people who are making the decisions, institutionally or unconsciously. First thing, it doesn't even matter who it is that you choose, because even go back to a status quo Republican, I think to Republicans that we became familiar with, let's just say George W. and early 2000s or whatever, and even before that, given we're up against today, would be better, than where we are right now. But I certainly, I would never.
Yeah. For me, I'm hoping that unfortunately, I don't like it this way, but I'm hoping that the economic downturn that's going to happen, that was purposeful. And I mean, like, every possible way that a president could negatively affect an economy happened in less than 15 months. And hopefully that will open people's eyes to, their money, and the money being a good starting point to get people to at least find a common ground on something. When I was my last job that I had, I was out and about in auto body shops. And that's probably the most conservative place I could possibly be on a daily basis. In order to get my job done, I'm very pleasant and can get business done. And I personally try to avoid talking anything beyond sports with any of those guys as in any way, shape, or possible. But when those times came up, I would always try to find as quickly as possible the thing that we can commonly relate on, and then like steer the conversation there. They're going to hit me with the bullshit that we agree on from their point of view. And then I can slowly start well, that doesn't make sense. This kind of makes sense. And they're like, yeah. Then before you know it, we're agreeing on universal health care, and they don't even know it.
That's been the past 60 years, right? What you're talking about, trying to convince them of that. And yet we're in a worse position, even if we just go back the past 10 years. So clearly it is no opening their eyes to the thing. That's a waste of our time and resource.
I mean, like on a pleasantry, working along with our neighbors type of thing. If you're looking for, if we're talking about like organizational strategies and solutions and stuff like that, I don't think I can talk about that on here right now. With kind of where I'm starting to get at. But that's why if I am going to talk about anything, I'm talking about my main thing is like, as far as like individual regular people political action, is find something in your community that you can help at and help and get to know your community a little bit better. That's where I'm at with it.
Internationally, when you notice the nations, they talk to their allies. When it's an enemy, you don't try to negotiate with your enemy and try to get them to come over to your side. You approach them as an enemy. So when it comes to our politics and our interpersonal relationships, why are we doing something that we know don't work when we know that these people are our enemies, to try to convince them to come over to our side? You don't try to convince, they're not trying to convince Iran to come over to your side, or North Korea, or whoever else they deem as their enemies. And no nation does that. They just approach them as their enemy, and you look at it like that. And then your allies are the people you work with when it comes to some strategy to getting the outcomes that you are working toward.
So I guess my question would be, in this scenario that we're speaking of, who's are we saying that like
anybody who voted for me, anybody who voted for Trump 2-3 times is my enemy, because you hate black people, you hate women, you hate gays, trans, and all of that. Not negotiating with you ever about any. I can't convince you.
But realistically, I'm not talking about them. Those are the cult members. So when I say cult members, that's what I'm talking about. Those people are too far gone. Those people are, to me, those are on site type people.
70 million people are that.
Right.
Not convincing them.
Agreed. So then that means that there is 230 other or 270
and a lot of them are
260 million other people. That's what I'm talking about. I don't care about the cult members. The cult members definitely are our enemy. It's on site with those people. We can box, debate, what you want.
That's the people
you gonna lose
you're sitting with
if you're coming to me.
You're trying to convince, wasting your time.
No, I'm not trying to convince them. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the apathetic. I'm talking about the well, I mean, if I'm talking about for a candidate that I would actually advocate for, I'm talking about the liberals. I'm talking about the centrists that are able to be spoken to. And there's way more, to be honest with you, the Trump cult, even though it's pretty big, is not that big. I mean, yeah, they voted, a lot of people voted for that. But if we really were to pull out the Trump cult, it's, it's a lot, but it's not that big compared to everything else.
More of them voted for him than voted for not him.
What was it? What did you say?
More of them voted for him than not him.
Correct. Yes. And then on the other end of that, more people didn't vote at all.
We already knew. It's not like a small number. That's a huge number.
It is.
Because you mentioned 200-something million. That's including the ones who are not him, and it's including children and others, right? So it's a huge chunk.
We don't need to convince everyone. We need to win an election that gives and then give ourselves, or whomever is willing to do the right thing, enough time to fix what's broken and to implement so I guess a good example of this would be New York City. Already, despite my the few issues that I have with him, like for myself personally or whatever, Zoran Mamdani is exactly who I'm talking about, to be that as like a template for what a public official looks like. He's not perfect, right? But he does his job. If there was a Republican that did that, I'm not saying I would vote for them, but like that's the optics of what it is that I'm talking about. That your government is supposed to look like and be responsive like that. Now, will the Mamdani administration always do everything right? Will their compromises always be something that I would compromise on or whatever? No, it's not going to be perfect. But just in the first few months, the things that he's getting implemented, trying to get implemented, fighting for. I saw this one thing where he was defending what am I trying to say? a suspect in a crime, because I don't want to say like convicted because he wasn't convicted, but it was a suspect in a crime that when they did their investigations and looked at everything, it clearly was having a mental health episode, and then is inserting himself in the matter to make sure this gets viewed as and taken handled as a mental health incident instead of a criminal one, so the person gets the help that he needs instead of getting put in a system, in his own system that he doesn't even want in his own system. That's what I'm talking about. If we are able to get people like that, one, to be out and about influencers, not even in politics, that leads to optics. We get people like that in politics and then promote them. Zoran is doing a pretty good job of that himself. That helps. It would have helped in Texas type of situation with a Jasmine Crockett type of person, maybe not Jasmine Crockett type of politics, but overall that doesn't really matter because everybody's all pretty much the same. That's the shift that we need to see. Granted, we didn't need to see that with fascism. We didn't need fascism in order to see that. But at this point, if we're going to advocate for the things that we can say in a corporate held public space, right? Because there are other things that I would like to do to get the balls rolling. It's not even like really violent or anything. It's just having experience being flagged on talking about controversial yet documented things in the past has gotten me in trouble. So I'm trying to be careful. But that's why when I'm talking about it in a positive sense, in a sense that, you know, normies and whatever are going to want to hear, all right, we need active community understanding, organization, and that's where the fight needs to come from. So when I talk to these conservatives, when I'm in the auto body shops and we're having the conversations, there was this one guy, funny story. There was this one guy, walk into his shop, Trump stuff everywhere. What's that?
What do you mean by conservatives?
Well, actually, in this case, this was a cult member. What I mean by conservative is people who vote for the Republican agenda and or
like the general understanding of what conservative mean in the U.S.
Yeah, the people who vote for the Republican agenda and are aligned with a conservative, you know, / religious type ideology, which could include Democrats and liberals. But in this case, I was being nice to this guy. This is a cult member, because when I walked into his shop, he had Trump stuff everywhere. Trump this, clocks, posters, those life-size billboards or whatever. And so I'm already feeling weird. And
you didn't leave?
No, it's my job. So I had to negotiate. One, it was my job. Two, I had to find this shop because it was like a specific type of repair that doesn't normally happen. So I had to negotiate as the insurance company for the customer with this job that we don't normally do. So I had to do business with this guy, or it was going to be a problem trying to get this person's vehicle fixed. So anyway, I'm trying to do my job. I'm taking a look around, feeling uncomfortable. He's got Fox News and OAN blasting and different TVs all over the place. And he ends up, something on the TV comes up, and he ends up talking about special needs education. And especially considering in my city at the time, in the county, I should say, in that area where he was at, they got in trouble because they were neglecting the special needs kids or whatever. So we're in the city where they were neglecting the special needs kids. They're talking about special needs in the education department on the TV. And he's like, you know, I just don't understand these politicians. You know, it's just so ridiculous, you know, and it's just so tough for myself personally, because I have a special needs child and it's just so hard for me to find someone who actually cares about him. And I go, man, it would be so great if we had a division of the government that would handle stuff like that. He's like, I know, right? As they're talking about getting rid of the Department of Education. And then so I was like, so what's your issue with your son? So the son was being neglected. He can't prove it, but he feels that maybe there was some physical stuff going on. But his son was like saying some stuff, but he couldn't really tell. So he's been fighting and they've been ignoring him. And I'm like, well, why don't you just move out the district? Oh, well, I got my business here and da 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 da. And I'm okay. Well, are you not like fighting for this in like the school district? Or what am I gonna do? Go up there and raise hell? Yeah, in my head, this is what I'm saying. Like yes. So the takeaway I got from that whole conversation, because there was more to it than that, but it's boring. The takeaway that I got from that whole conversation is, one, you don't even know how anything around you works. Number one. Number two, maybe this guy specifically, but most of those business owners are very involved in the city. So it's surprising that he said that he didn't want to get involved in the city. But most of those business owners in those areas are very involved in their city and their school districts. So like if this auto body shop owner is having issues with, something, he's going to go and be like, hey, I'm such and such and such and such, and you're going to fix this. And it usually gets fixed. So that was surprising. But then he doesn't even want to do anything about it, and he's just going to let his kid get neglected and abused and then complain about it. And it's just one of those situations where that guy himself personally probably is someone that is too far gone. But for someone like me, right? If I had the resources and the wherewithal and the network, I would have behind the scenes, without him knowing, tried to help him get his situation resolved. And, I know that this game, the game that we played, we talked about that earlier, is not, doesn't have a good return of investment for people like that. But that is the type of people that need to, that need to show up and show out, that need to find funding sources or some alternative way of getting on ballots and all this other stuff. And to be honest with you, a good solution outside of some other ones that I'm sure that I can't talk about is not a third party. I mean, I guess it would be a third party apparatus, but like it's an like a community party apparatus. Like you got the Democrats, Republicans, and then like the community party.
Yeah, but see, that's a different conversation. That's the conversation for 10, 20 years ago, right?
Right, that's true.
The one that they told you was always here, right? It is too, it is not the time to do the whole third party thing and build that up, right? So now we're really at the point where it's too late. You know what I'm saying? To go through this.
That's
so
on a national. That's on a national sense. Most of the issues that people are going through, right now is local. Now, granted, yes, the Iran war and tariffs and Trump looting the treasury,
right,
and all that stuff, like that stuff is important too.
Stuff locally, right? Because we're at this point where there is what a lot of people call fascists, right? Who's overtaking all of those systems, starting with the state, and then just the tentacles that reach all the way down to the local level.
Right.
So, this was the 10, 20 year ago conversation.
And then there was also this other thing that was that I saw recently. I have it saved somewhere, so I'll probably dig into it a little more. And I'm pretty sure there was some books associated with it as well. But the idea that, and this is why I call out the difference between a cult member and a conservative, right? Because a lot of conservatives are actually just people that are stuck within a local apparatus that they can't get out of. So, for instance, one of the last few jobs that I had to commute over an hour and 15 minutes one way to get to work. And doing that, I would drive through what I would call the lynchy towns.
Now you're leaning into the individual responsibility sort of a thing, because why was you doing that?
Well, that was because that's the job that I had available. I thought it was going to be able to get me into a type of position that would have set me up. Like I was going to be the a used buying manager, but because it was like a very small local dealership, I was a used car buying manager, but like my roles and responsibilities would have been more than that. So I could have used that on a resume to get me into a higher position, higher paying position closer to home. That's the way I was looking at it. It ended up not turning out that way, obviously. but that was the goal of it. So I was willing to make that drive. But during that drive, it would take me to what I would call, in that route, a lot of lynchy towns that probably would have been sundown towns, or probably still are sundown towns, right? And in working in the area, it's one of those places where there's a couple rich families, and those rich families control everything. So it's not even a case where some people are conservative and vote conservative because that's what they believe. There's a lot of communities that have, you know, people that have been looking into this because they're figuring out why, as a liberal or a leftist or whatever, I live in this community, I can't get anything accomplished. Is the people that run and own the town will physically affect you if you don't. If you don't vote for her as a comptroller, you're not going to get that job. If you don't have this person be the deputy or the sheriff, you know what I'm saying, then you won't be able to be mayor and stuff like that. It doesn't even have anything to do with ideology at all. It has everything to do with, you know, local family beef and shit like that. And so that's again why I was speaking about this yesterday, about the conversations that we have. They just need to be a tad bit better. And what I mean by that is asking the question. Like, we can get hung up on things such as that, but I want someone to answer this for me. Why is it that you feel this way then? If you're going to be, I'm not maybe necessarily a cult member.
No,
I mean, I care about what the cult members say too, but a conservative person, why is it that you feel this way? And what is it that you can't see that we can't come to a... No, you don't think that'll work?
Same thing the establishment Democrats always say after the racists win the election, to tap into what the racists are thinking so that we can win. No.
I mean, no, I wouldn't.
Even if they're doing it on their local level, hey, I'm gonna vote for whatever reason,
right?
But when it comes to the national election and the statewide election, they're still voting for the bigot.
Ultimately, in that case, in that scenario that you painted, the big issue is the Democratic Party itself as a whole and its apparatus is more aligned with all that other stuff in the first place. I'm not talking about that per se. I'm talking about...
Yeah, but I'm talking about what you're saying is the exact same thing. Let's figure out what's in their minds and all that. I just say no.
So, but what I mean is yeah, I hear what you're saying, and what I mean is not from a Democratic Party point of view. I'm talking about it from having conversations with your neighbors' point of view.
It is the exact same argument that they make. You are saying what they say.
I think we're having a confusion there, because I think that I'm saying something similar but opposite. It's similar, I'll give you that, but the reason why I'm saying it's opposite is the real issue with politics. The problem that we're having in the United States of America is everything that we do takes from all of us except for them. That's the problem. We can't live off of our labor. We can't have fun and creativity because that gets canceled and commodified and all this other kind of stuff like that. Everything is all about making 3-6 corporations billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. That's what it's all about. When it's all said and done, we don't have education about history, about art, about this, about that. Our people can't even functionally read and comprehend things. People don't understand art. People don't understand how music works. People don't just like general basic stuff like that. Everything is about selling, doing what I got to do to pay the bills and this, that, and the third. So when politics overall at the end of the day is about, you know, how you maintain your society, the goal is to have everybody win, right? If we're not going to full on have a leftist revolution, right? then the only thing that we can do is this voting piecemeal incremental stuff. But it's about, what I'm talking about is about the people that we are even letting in the first place. If the conversation that needs to be had is, why are we just letting the Democrats tell us who we're gonna run? The biggest complaint that I hear on these debate shows that I listen to all the time from the right, that they do have a legitimate point, even though they don't even know how they have a legitimate point, they don't know how to argue it, is, and I understand why the Democrats did it, but it optically it didn't help. There was no primary, and that was fucking Biden's fault. You said that you were going to be one term. You went back on that word, and then you put Kamala in the worst fucking position possible, and then she fucking caved like a Democrat.
All right, so it's not just on Biden. You have all the other people who could have made sure there was a primary.
Yes.
Even an individual who comes up and says, I'm going to run, right? So it's not just Biden.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. I'm calling Biden out because that's buzzwords that people like to hear. Biden needs to be called out. Democratic Party apparatus needs to be called out. His front office needs to be called out. Kamala needs to be called out. Everybody needs to be called out. How they did what they did was absolutely horrible. But the main thing that really ruined it for everyone is, for me in particular, when it happened, I understood exactly from a procedural point why the Democrats gave Kamala everything, and it just was that, and that's how that worked. I understand from a procedural DNC reason why that happened. I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is, I remember that motherfucker from 2016. She was the first one to leave before it was even time to leave because her campaign was shit. And that's when she was trying to run as a progressive. You were shitty as a fake progressive. Who are you now, Kamala? Terrible. So why don't I have a choice again for the second time in a row? I didn't get to choose. Bernie would have been the after Ohio. Bernie would have been the front running nominee in the primaries during COVID time period. But they stopped the primaries literally the day before Ohio was supposed to vote. Ohio was gonna go to fucking Bernie overwhelmingly. I don't care what anybody the fuck says. Ain't nobody was talking about anybody else in my circles. No one. And if they were, it was to make fun of them. Bernie was going to overwhelm Ohio, even for the right side, right? So with that said, and they took my vote away from me again, for myself personally, specifically as a voter. I've not had an ability to put my say in who should be running this shit for the longest time. But again, in order to reduce harm, I gotta go with this shit. No, that's the whole big issue. Is the people that the apparatus are putting in our face are shit. And the people that we're telling them to put in our face, they won't. So therefore, they're doing their own campaigns. Zoran did his own campaign, basically, for the most part. I like that one girl from Arizona. What was her name? She was like a YouTuber. She was Kat Agzabale or something like that. Like people like that are coming out of the woodwork on their own.
Isn't that Illinois?
What's that?
She's in Illinois, right?
Illinois. Yeah, Illinois. There was another one in Arizona. There's another one, and then there's a couple. There's a I don't know their names specifically because they're not in my areas, but I've been peeping that these candidates are popping out and they're gaining traction and they're calling truth to power straight to your face. That's who needs to be running, and the Democratic Party is scared of these people. Good, fuck them. The same thing that these small, loud conservative groups, well, they're not small and loud, they're like backed by big money, but what appears to be small and loud groups on the conservative side, that type of stuff is what needs to happen organically on the left, and real candidates need to be put into places to show what a real politician is supposed to look like. You're not going to agree with everything they do, but you at least know they're going to take care of their constituents, red, white, purple, all that other stupid shit that people say. That's what we need to, if we're going to have the conversation. The actual things that we need to do is like sabotage and subterfuge. But again, we can't have that conversation. Reminder, 2008, Biden got blown out in the primary. He did, but this candidate don't have high primary win rates. I don't know that I don't know what you meant by that last part of the comment, Civil One, but Biden did get blown out of the primary. So when all the thing that was getting me in what was that, 2020? The thing that was pissing me off in 2020, and when I knew things were going to go bad and then they canceled the Ohio election, was South Carolina. That was like the first twist, where it was Bernie, and then the black folks in South Carolina went to Biden, and that was because I think it was, what's his name? What was that? It was a congressman or a senator? It was a black dude, South Carolina. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, what's his name?
Not Cornyn. Is it Cornyn?
The one who gave it to Biden.
Oh,
It's I think it was something with a C. But anyway, it was an old black dude or whatever. So once that started happening, I was like, oh no. And then it didn't help. Clyburn, that's what it was. And then it didn't help. And then another reason why I'm coming, I wanted to come back and do these type of streams and eventually get to a point where we can have, because my audience will be leftist, we can have the arguments within the left. My first streaming, time period, I quickly learned how blind the blind spot of the white leftist. And that was the reason for the book clubs and all these other specific things, where if I'm looking at my statistics and 97% of my audience is 18 to 35-year-old white men who come in my chat and say the dumbest shit I've ever heard, but are on my side, there's a conversation that needs to be had. And so that conversation is currently happening right now, where it's tough for especially the older generation black folk to get on to the leftist page, because most of the leftist page that they know of is all the sabotages against the Panthers and all the sabotages against all the other. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you see what Silver One made the greatest point is what I was talking about, where you're talking to your allies, right? You don't need to go and talk to whoever's anti-socialist or whatever, right? He leans into the policies and the people who like that, and then he builds his coalition so that he has overwhelmingly support when it comes to that election.
Right.
Agreed. And that's what I was talking about within our personal circles and whatnot. That should be, the way we conduct ourselves, instead of trying to figure out what the people who are against us would want us to say and do.
Right. And what I mean by understanding, I guess, what their problem is or what they mean when they say things is, again, and this is through my time, but from watching how a lot of these people attempt these debates, and how the debaters never call these things out. Because I would stop these debates after a while and be like, bro, what is it that you're actually talking about? Because what you're saying doesn't make any sense. You're saying like the buzzwords that like sound like they make sense, but it doesn't make sense. And we need to figure out what your actual problem is. Because realistically, if we're talking about building a coalition and reaching out to voters and all this other kind of stuff like that, and Civil One saying that, Mamdani won by building coalitions and all this other kind of stuff like that. How you build coalitions is figuring out what people's problem is. And then when you're able to speak to the people's problem and have a real solution for people's problem, they tend to not give a fuck what you look like anymore.
Well, no, I disagree with that. And I think that fundamental issue, happens with these conversations online, that, you get a lot of what I like to just generic barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
People who don't know what they're talking about, that are very opinionated, people who know more, may more softly. And at the end of the day, I think the question that any person is going to or have conversations is what are you here to do? Here to explain and give your position? Are you here to lead people to a certain perspective? And until the person who's talking understands what their objective, be pretty difficult unless the objective is just to shoot the breeze. And like you were mentioning, uninformed people who come and say this is kind of silly thing or whatever. And then figure it out from there because, as he talks a lot, obviously, objective is rarely going to be to to specifically try to educate the people who seem like they're they don't understand. Say I give my ideas, I try to be vulnerable in and of myself, share ideas. People who they have questions, they push, have conversations. The people who don't get it just don't get it, and I think we waste Democrats and other people, and just in general in life, waste time trying to convince people.
But do you know what they do? You know what they do get though? They get having a functioning, working childcare system. They get having policies that make sure tax revenue helps the city fix potholes and parks and community centers and things such as that. They understand that part, and that's the talk that needs to happen instead of the explaining why we need to talk about doing what they need. That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying that people who know what needs to happen in the communities, but maybe but may need
what needs to happen in
a couple more votes.
Even that's subjective. What needs to happen in a community is subjective based on my needs and my perception and outlook on life. But what definitely needed, if any conversation is going to be full, is people come to the table have to understand that there's some foundational knowledge and understanding that you need to have, which generally is going to idea things, understand how things work. Then you sit bumping your gums about something, a waste of time to understand how things are worked if you're expecting it to change.
So that's what I'm saying. For those type of people, I'm not talking to them to get them to understand how things work. They're not going to understand how things work.
Back and forth with them, then what is the objective, right? So is it entertainment or is it education? Is it that you're trying to galvanize people to do a thing, what that thing could be? You in particular, but I'm just saying anyone who's speaking in an open forum and in such a manner.
Right. I get what you're saying. So I guess to speak for myself personally, I have always had these type of conversations, especially with people that don't understand. And I get that they don't understand. And especially when I do get that they don't understand, I carry on the performance for the person that comes along that does understand. And did need to hear what need to be said. So I'm not saying that what we as a group of people, the nation needs to do is just go around having conversations with dum-dums. No. I'm saying I'm myself personally willing to do something like that because one, I want to be informed. So I'm going to do a news scroll anyway. So why don't I just do that while I'm streaming and have a conversation while I'm doing it? But then, and number one, number two, I'm pretty well versed enough to be able to have nuanced conversations that get historical and policy wonky and all that kind of stuff like that, to be able to, facilitate that. And then three, in a situation where, it seems like today, in the future, the views or the audience or whatever may be completely different. And today we're having a conversation like this. Someone may come along that may want to hear a conversation such as this, and is not getting it from their politicians, is not getting it from their news sources, and is hearing a different type of perspective spoken in a different type of language. For me personally, unless they're being ridiculous, I'm willing to answer in good faith. If we're having a good faith conversation, answer any question or whatever that gets presented. And if I don't know, I'm going to look it up so we can find out the facts of it. That's what I do for myself personally. For those that are around me are going to be informed, and those that are around that can get what that tastes like. Am I trying to change someone's mind? Sure, maybe personally, maybe. Will I? Maybe not. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what conversations, good conversations such as this, deeper conversations like having conversations about bringing trans children into the chat so they can speak of their own experiences and things like that. Having people's perspectives come together makes things a lot more cohesive. It makes things a lot less scary, right? If I hear, if I'm an Islamophobe, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What if you're trying to answer the question, doesn't have a definitive answer? You know, to me, that is part of the nuance, right? Anyone can look up a fact and give the person the fact. And whenever you're giving the context, maybe, you know, the back, say, okay, what you need to know are these things. Here's the history, here's the whatever. There is still a fact-based perspective when you're like that. But then you start to get into your assessment and evaluating what all of and that it could be very differently depending on experiences, who you are and what. And my personal philosophy, since we're talking about that rather than telling people what they ought to think or convincing them to think what the more important thing is to show them how to think critically. Just watching the process of, hey, we do the same thing every time. Okay, what is the history? Seeing, do we see any writing on the wall? Look at this period in history. Very similar to other periods in history, which is another reason why if you don't know history, then you can't pick up on the past. Right? So that's what I'm saying. And then beyond that, as far as these other conversations, like I'm not getting into conversation personally, I'm just kind of rambling.
Right.
About trans rights and this and that. Because, you know, for any of these things, very simple. Don't like gay marriage, don't get gay marriage.
Right.
Don't like this, you know, very much a live and let live perspective on things. I'm here to tell somebody else what they should be doing in their private life, in their bedroom and whatever. And that makes me different in some ways than perhaps people who think they ought to be policing every aspect of life.
Right.
So I don't spend a lot of time just debating that subject. It's black and white to me. There are things that should and should, and you know, folks can argue about it, but at the end of the day, you know what? I'm a person who's just talking about it. I have no ability to affect change on those policies are.
So the biggest part that to add to that makes, I guess, if the goal is to bring change and not necessarily the exact specific change that I wish to see, but just progressive change, someone is gonna have to stand up and do it. And the issue that I take issue with is I'm one of those people that be willing to do it, but I know that I'm never going to be in the position to, you know, run the office or do the election or whatever. I'm never going to be put in that position. But if I were, I would take the opportunity and try to help as much as I possibly could. And since I know that it's probably not going to be me, then I'm trying to light the fire under somebody that probably would. And the issue, the big issue is I forgot what it's called, but there's something in the society that, like, when you do it so much, it's like it burns into your I guess like social memory to make it make sense. And one of those things is that I truly see people having an issue with overall is money, right? And so to be in this system, to try to even be a runner and player in this system, you need to have the currency that they use, and that is the dollar bill. And unless you are exploiting someone.
One question, because this is important to me.
Sure.
You've talked a number of times during this conversation about how it's not going to be you wouldn't be put in the position. Why not you? If we're at the most liberal time in history in, or, you know, I don't know your personal business or anything like that.
Yeah, I get you.
Where anybody could be anywhere and anybody can set up their shop and whatever it is and say whatever they want to say. Why not you? To me, that's just a little nugget of a seed I'll plant there. Why not really think that you'd be good at it, and there are people who tell you that you would be, and they would support you, whatnot. And why let the mediums determine what you're going to do for the future, especially since you seem dedicated to wanting to help people understand things and change people's lives and stuff. I mean, you and I'm say, hey, they want to go run for president. It may be that you choose to do something with the city council or with even that, and just in some other capacity.
Well, I mean,
you have to limit yourself because of that.
To kind of get to answer that a little bit, on the surface, it's, I guess for myself personally, it would be hesitation through experience, and especially when it comes to something big and public. I always get to like a precipice where like I'm at the edge, and then something it blows up, and then I gotta like start all over from scratch. And
what does that mean? Like hesitation through experience?
So I'm hesitant to do something at that scale for myself personally, because of the experience of having dealt with it on a smaller scale, and the lack of support, and the uphill battle, and all that other kind of stuff like that. And that's what I'm talking about, Civil One. And I didn't miss your comment before. We just aren't really talking about that anymore. So I'll get back to it. But
with the Civil One, you can gain experience at a number of different levels, and it may not even directly through politics as machine politics. I mean, everything's going to involve some level of politics, whether you had a nonprofit, whether you did whatever you did.
And that's the nonprofit kind of like idea route is the one that I have been tinkering with the most, because like that's truly when it's all said and done. Believe it or not, the last Twitch episode or whatever, even this isn't for the accolades and the influence and any of the, like, it seems like it, but like it's not. And then like, even if I were to do something like a nonprofit or something like that, it's not even for the act. It's just like to do it. But even with that, the networking that I've tried to do, it's falling apart because someone's either jealous or don't want to work with me. It's like group dynamics. And
get back to the idea that you're saying the reason why you're is because of your experiences.
Well, okay, yeah, and so, but that's what I'm saying. That's part of it. So when it's, let me make a point.
But what I've learned is that sometimes that is practice, right? Practice the insecurity or the failures, the things falling, because that's this for when things get bigger. That's maybe just to even get in on the ground level. And so I'm throwing that out there.
So there's that part, but because you mentioned that specifically, that is like it's like a negative positive thought that I have, where I've taken these hits and I've taken the loneliness and the solitude and all the other things that I've gone through, and the failings of businesses and all these attempts or whatever, to set me up. It's setting me up for when that time comes. I'm gonna be ready for it. And so like that is like the positive part that I hold on to. Like when it does come, like I probably will be ready for it. But then I'm also trying to be realistic to the point that like maybe people just don't fuck with me like that. Like I think I'm fuckable with, I'm fuckwittable, but maybe people just don't fuck with me like that, and that's okay. And so I just build an audience and build a network of who I'm able to reach and connect, and do what I can do from there. If that leads to something bigger, great.
Maybe you haven't tried enough. Maybe you haven't tried. Maybe not the right people. You can have a billion failures. It only takes the one success.
That's true.
But I think you have a good point. Because also, I think we should also be receptive to what the just, take the business references, but what the market is telling. The
Right.
market, like, hey, look, I'm a middle-aged woman. The market says to middle-aged women, probably aren't going to be sitting in a bikini like a 19-year-old. That's what the market says. Go and do it. And I can have all reasons to be, but if in a thing, then I know I'm setting myself up for a difficult battle. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be.
That's a good point.
It means
Civil
is
One.
I have to be mentally ready for that battle, right? I have to know that just like with Jasmine Crockett in this race, going into the Senate race, that it wasn't looking good. Why she wanted to be able to stay in the and keep her seat and not gerrymandered district. But she said, I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna go out here, and this was a failure. I mean, look at a lot of people who failed and then, that because we were talking about politics, and she said, well, Biden did eventually become president, but he, we did look back in history at Nixon.
Yeah.
Maybe she went out.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
But
true. And in that sense, though, the way that I'm looking at it is like they tried and they failed and whatever, but like they did it in the most sleazy, just gross way possible. And to me, it seems, especially online, that you aren't actually able to be authentic. You're not actually able to be a nice guy. You're not actually able to like be nuanced and like understand where people are coming from and try to be in good faith, even though most people don't.
You absolutely be that. It just comes at a price. And from firsthand experience, the price you pay in of popularity. But what I find is the people who rock with you rock harder than the people who are just anybody who's saying a certain thing. They're like, yeah, I'm on the people who are loyalists to your perspective and who may follow you as fans of your commentary or whatever. People are really rock. Ones who are really, feel you. They're not the fly by night.
That's true. That's very true.
People who are going to just flee when the next comes along. You can have the solid people who will have your back, maybe fewer in numbers. You just got to decide what's more important.
Well, to me right now, what's more important is me staying informed about what's going on, because I got the time, and I'm trying to figure out, a bigger move within my life, and then in the meantime, building that audience base back, because
that, just so you know, it'll never stop being that. That's the continuous evaluation that we all have, especially in unstable climate,
right? Yeah,
and everything
that's true.
else.
That's true. But I mean, ultimately, with this is to get the like a community that I had like before, where we come in and we do all that, or break all this stuff down, and at least within that group, I mean, if it spreads, it goes viral. I'll try to make clips. Editing is, oh my god, I forgot that editing sucks. If it gets out to whoever who would actually need to see it, because to be honest with you, I know that it's futile. I know that it's whatever. But if there is a toxic guilty pleasure that I have, it's talking to people that completely disagree with me to get where they're coming from, to see what their actual problem is, and then presenting them their actual problem to see if they will change it. And if they don't, then just have fun ridiculing them after that because they're being ridiculous. It's a guilty pleasure, but I enjoy it.
It's entertainment.
For that part of it. That part of it.
Entertainment, right? There's an aspect that's entertainment,
right?
And probably people will enjoy watching that. But you the sentence with, I know this is child, but, and I don't child. I mean, it's child if that's part of your objective of put out. Part of your objective is that it's entertaining because that's what you like doing, and it makes it more likely that you will continue to do it even when the times get rough, right?
Right.
So if part of that you just want to talk, you want to go to toe with people and say let's, and that people find that interesting to watch, then that's your aim. That's part of your thing that you're going to be in, and if people enjoy it and they it accomplishes its goal.
But the main gist of it is, I mean, if that were to happen, that happens. But overall, they'll come and they'll go. The main thing is, I'm trying to stay informed. Let's look at these articles. Ground News gives you the ability to look at the different aspects of it. Let's peel through the layers. And
these articles. Want to stay informed? Let's look at these articles. Okay, so what I'm suggesting is, because these days you probably need to go to a printed book. Go to books on history of things that you may need to fill in some gaps on.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. Actually, next week.
Only look to the article for the fact, because we are at a time where skimming articles ain't gonna cut it, because the quality of what you're getting out there is deliberately misleading in many cases.
And that's also a part of it, is how even in, I guess my media diet, it's easy for me to pick out the bullshit, because this administration, I love this administration. The one thing I love about this administration, I mean, I hate it, but the one thing I love about this administration is they like to do shit that I have way too much weirdism knowledge on. And so when they do and say stuff, it's immediate that I know that they're bullshit. And it's to the point now where, like, I think that I need to have a rule where I can't talk about Pete Hegseth or a Pete Hegseth quote, because like I feel it. I feel just saying and just blurting out the most egregious thing possible, just having his words in my throat. I can't. I effing hate that guy with my soul. But they make it so easy to figure out what is and isn't bullshit. They contradict themselves constantly, and then ultimately, I think that is a part of the informed, is seeing where the spin is. Look, AP News gives me facts, but they can't write. Fox News
differentiates you, though. So as we're talking about this, what differentiates you from maybe 20 or 30 other people who are on right now talking about the very same thing? What's differentiates you?
Well, I mean, if looking at it from a marketing aspect, I don't know.
We're talking sell. Why do I watch? Why do I watch J-OneHundred?
I ask questions most people don't, and I say the thing that needs to be said that some people don't.
Okay. So you know me, and I don't know if you think of me as your audience, but I wouldn't watch you because I don't read my own articles, and I don't need somebody else to read articles to me. Right? I need some perspective or something.
Well, okay, so that's the part about it, that because I'm not getting paid for this as a job, I don't got time to pre-read and set up and program a show and then have the show be, the Majority Report. I don't got time for all that. So how I'm approaching it is, for the most part, if I don't know, then, that's where all the tabs come from and we'll search it. But the article is for the top news, go from some facts, and then where the audience would, or I guess if I did see you, I guess I would see you as my audience, is with the conversation that comes from it at that point. I'm going to have a perspective on it. You know what I mean? And then before I move on, somebody in chat might say something. Oh, that's a good point. I never thought about that, which will then lead to some more tabs and some more context that we can add to the thing. And then before you know it, we got a wide range of perspectives and ideas and thoughts and, context from this one article. And then we move on.
Question, because you still talking about the article as the starting point. Question being, what makes you different? Because other people do that. Same thing.
I mean,
they read the article, they ask questions, and some of them specific, the opinions, and then people in the audience time out things and they answer. Let me just say, and I'm, like the hugest streamers. What is the thing that makes people want to engage with somebody like maybe friend? Because he's political. Makes them engage with him. And
who did you say?
He has like Hasanabi, Hasanabi.
Yeah.
So what makes people engage with him? Why do they like him so successful? But the people who really like and can watch him, what makes people engage? And saying you answer here, but is that same thing for you? You know things, you have a perspective, and I think you have to figure out what that point of differentiation. When you look at business, one of the things they always tell you, product is, whatever your service is, what is the differentiator? What is your value position? Should people watch you? And you have to have that answer forefront of your mind all the time while you communicate. And it can't be the easy thing. The other thing is, it's for a viewer. Viewers don't care if you're making money. They don't care for the reason as to why you set things up the way you set things up. From experience, we had money coming in to do them, but the viewer doesn't care. They still say, we want YZ, or we nice if you do blah blah blah. You know, these are all considerations. And just through years of experience of doing this and able to actually make money doing it. I mean, you know, Hassan rich or anything like that. But the point is to be able to consistently have this go. I mean, and think about that.
You're breaking up real bad.
People,
I didn't hear you that last 5 seconds. You broke up real bad.
Think about why people would want to.
Oh, I see.
And so to be clear, it's not that Hyde is saying he would not be your audience.
Right.
Saying is, you know, he's a prospective viewer, but here's the thing that you got to overcome.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the question. And I think to that, because you things to offer, but it can't be the same as the other 30 people who are also on there. Then,
so to answer that more, I guess more specifically, because I guess at first I wasn't thinking about what my what my plans were in the future. I was thinking about like right now, but what I intend to have is I've always wanted to figure out a way to do something that had to do with current events and news, but was a game. And I've always wanted to do a around the horn type news game thing. I was even a guest on a podcast that kind of did it. It was really fun. I won, or no, I didn't win. I got to the end and then I lost on some stupid technicality, but it was really fun because at the end of it, I would have been able to like plug the podcast when I had the podcast and like all this other kind of stuff like that. And, but I had the idea before that. It was just very interesting when I got to do the show to see how somebody else kind of put it together. So when an audience gets built,
have you ever watched Roy Wood? It's similar to that, to what you're talking about. I mean, maybe specifically like that, but of current events, and they kind of quiz each other, but that's comedy. Yours serious and fun. But have you ever watched that show? Because I think that's a really good angle.
Roy Woods? No, I didn't even know he had. I had a show.
Roy Wood and Amber Russell is on there. It's
I'm sorry. That show. Okay. I heard about. I haven't seen it yet.
And they have a part of it where they ask questions. They say, "Who said such and such and such and such?"
Right.
Current events. Time of the day,
right?
And then they laugh and cackle and talk about how ridiculous, because it's ridiculous news, and then they talk about how ridiculous it is or whatever. But you know, but somebody argues the answer to the question. Now, whether they really know it or they make sure they know it, flow.
Right. I mean, the way that I was looking at it, the way I'm looking at it is kind of like
the person I'm watching for news or whatever or politics don't know the thing, then I don't want to watch them. Because I could go to the barbershop and talk to people who don't know anything and listen to what they got to say, or go talk to a 5-year-old about the world.
Right. But so the way I'm looking at it is for those who I guess the thing about it is like for those who are would be served by the perspective and the points that need to be said or the questions that need to be asked or whatever. The article is a jumping point of what is hot in the news to then question
Yeah, but
what is being
you
said
should
and
already
told
know
about
what's
it.
hot in the news.
Was that?
If you're informed, you already know. Right? So you want the audience
But
who
people
don't know
aren't
what's
informed.
going on. So that's who your target audience would be then, right?
For the most
People
part,
who don't
sure.
know.
Yeah. And
Oh,
then for
okay.
the informed, they can put their 2 cents
That's for the
in.
informed because I already know. I don't need you to read the thing to me because I already read it.
Right. But you got thoughts on it though, right? And you got thoughts,
I'm not
and you
saying
got thoughts on it that
I
you got
have
thoughts on it
reflected.
that someone who would be able to comprehend those thoughts and be able to go back and forth with you in a productive, good faith manner. That would be a little interesting. So yes, you're informed. And then we're coming into the day. It's, what is it, Wednesday? It's Wednesday. We got the Senate going to the hearing. Actually, they should be doing that right now or soon. And for those that didn't really know about what was going on, because I've been asking about if it was been going on. And so now I know, all right, Senate's doing their thing, House is doing their thing. And then we're informed about that. And then chat's like, hey, I want to know about Massey and Ro Khanna. You know, what do you think about Massey and Ro Khanna's thing? And then we can kind of riff off of that based off of the current event, being informed about the current event that's going on right now. Because you've been, Height's been here most of the time I've been streaming. I've been asking since Saturday morning, when is Congress going to do shit? And then we find out last night it's going to be tomorrow and Thursday. Why is it taking so damn long? You know, all that kind of stuff like that. So, you know, for
What
news.
about this angle? Okay, so you have quizzes, or you have something that has an element of trivia where
Not
that's
yet,
kind of a
but
fun thing.
eventually,
And
sure.
then- what I'm saying is here's the plan, right? Because now instead of relying on, let me just open up and see what these articles are that I read, all you have to do is just go one step further and then say, I'm a question, and then format, you have a formula that's easily repeatable.
Right.
That way, people know what to expect, and I'm forward to whatever you're going to say. And then that I've people who have like titles of their video might be something like, you know, politics that pissed me off this week, because you're passionate and about things that happened. So that would be great. And maybe it's just, I don't know if you're going to stream daily or whatever, but you know, you just think of two or three things to lead in with that pissed you off this week. Well, it sounds like one of them is that they didn't pick Jazz Rocket. Another one, when are the Senate going to do? Glean that just from having listened to you during the time you're streaming right now. So that would be very simple. Come up with what your format would be based on that formula, and even have a lot of discussion in the meantime. It's a hook and a reason for me to be here beyond the fact that I could read an article quicker than I could read it, right?
Right.
So that's all I'm saying, you know.
I definitely I get that. I hear it. And this is a conversation that probably was gonna happen between us soon anyway. I get it. And I guess at the very moment, because like there's segment plans and like all the other kind of stuff like that. I don't want to just do the article thing. That's just a good way to get into it. But once the audience kind of gets built up,
That's what I'm saying. That's saying it's not a good way to get into it. It's not a good way to get into it for the informed or semi-informed people that you want to attract.
well, I want to attract everybody. I don't care who it is.
But like enough people to kind of keep things flowing, right?
Right.
Part is that the people with whom you interact help to keep the conversation going. Get quality people who are going to do that, then it's going to be a lot hard. Then you have to carry everything alone. That's a lot. Couldn't do it because there are people like, you know, you think back in the old days, Rush Limbaugh, who could get on and do a 3-hour show every day, or folks that we've seen in talk radio. Point is that give yourself the best chance, and if you efficiently and have that much can take away, especially since right now volunteering services, because you're not paid for it, but you getting paid, right?
You kind of broke up right there. You asked me a question. I didn't hear the end of it.
You could be. I said you could be getting paid for it, right?
Oh,
you're not right now.
Maybe I don't know.
Be getting paid. You know, be getting paid, and you know, but you have to be offering something people want to quote unquote buy, quality, because getting paid to make it now. That's why it's an investing in the future of your show. And that means that you're working for free for a period of time until it becomes more.
So, I mean, I guess the logic that I had was get on, be consistent, show your face, do the, I guess, like the main gist of, you know, the informed thing, looking at the articles, blah, 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 or videos or whatever it is.
And the thing that could have worked 10 years ago, but won't work today when it's competitive. When I can turn on and see Don Lemon sitting in a chair that looks like yours talking, you know, and cussing and stuff that he wasn't doing on CNN, when I can see these people whose big names we know doing the exact same thing and maybe even better because they have still have teams behind the scenes,
Right.
producers, etc.
Yeah.
Researchers, then, you know, then why am I watching? It's not a question for you to answer in this moment.
Right.
It makes you different. Well, I mean, one of the things that makes you different is that you're accessible, and I don't pay for you to be accessible. I go to Don Lemon, pay to be in his Lemonade people group and whatever. With you, I can say, hey, idea, you can jump on the, you can have, whatever. Accessibility advantage that you right now. But I'm just kind of
these arms.
You're an arms expert, right? No, this isn't you speculating and listening to what somebody told you. You know about it because I have questions about it as it pertains to this war. And so another conversation that I'd like to have at some point is it because I'm hearing reports that they're concerned about having enough weapons to be able to shoot down these drones and other things. Get over there and you're like, hey, in the first couple days of you're like, might run out, not have enough missiles to shoot everything down. This happen and go.
That's what you're saying. Well, I mean, and but that would be more of like a, not a video essay, but like a what am I trying to say? I have it pictured in my head, but I can't find the word for it. But I mean, and more damn, I had it again.
That's what streaming is. Streaming is a live video essay all the time. Every show you've ever watched that was live, that's what they're doing. Good ones.
Sure.
So
I guess one of the things that makes it different is instead of having
answer to
that you got the real raw.
Answer. Did you hear me? I said, what is the answer to that question? Like, I legit have that as a question. I want to know, and I know you're an expert in the area. Did you get all the way over to the Gulf? Haven't packed your bags enough to have enough weapons.
I mean,
and you're telling me 3 or 4 days in, we might run out. Can this happen? It's the answer and go.
Yeah.
I literally want to know.
Yeah. I mean, if you
Right?
do,
So,
then yeah.
so,
When an idiot is your president, then that's what happens.
You were involved in the training of troops who were going overseas. But you also had to make sure that all the equipment and everything was there for the people to be able to go through the training, right?
Right.
Something very basic. And whatever this other training we done where we was out in the woods in the dark on base. No, so you have these experiences that just, like in the logistics of how things in that field.
And Don Lemon doesn't know that. He doesn't. He'd have to get that answer from somebody else.
Yeah, he would.
Why I'm asking it as a rhetorical in this moment. No, can you tell that slip through the cracks that our bags do have enough weapons? How can that happen?
But then and that for what you're saying, like I guess that was a content idea that I had, like do a topic, you know what I mean? Like this is what we're talking about today type of thing. One, I don't really like that one for myself personally. One of my big issues with video essays, I think we said this to each other, or maybe I was talking to somebody else, I don't know. But the big issue that I have with video essays is I myself personally feel that I am not hitting the angles that I need to hit.
Viewer, and I have a question, and you told me now, I wanted to give you the answer when I know you have at least some answer or some speculation that is because you are an expert. My own speculate, but it's not
you
based
really
on
want me
any
to answer that like right
experience.
now?
Sure. And this is an example of how people might interact with your conversations because it may lead to a question like this, right? I you want to.
So what you're saying is what I'm saying, but the article is what I'm doing in the meantime before I get to that. And to answer the question, I mean, to be honest with you, there literally shouldn't be a way that happens. You should, if you're going to, I think also backing up a second, I think another part of this is because it's not actually our war. It's really not. We're the face of it, but it's Israel's war. And I don't think Trump was ready. I think Trump was just like, oh, BB wants to just go now. Okay, we got to get the ships and blah, 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 and everybody's just doing what they think they need to be done. And Hegseth, again, let me breathe for a second because saying his name almost got pissed off. Hegseth is just, who does he remind me of? Anyway, he's one of those type of guys that's just like overbearing and just gung-ho, like over masculine bully, and he's overcompensating, and they're just not doing anything correct. They're probably not counting things correct. Even I'm sure the troops don't even have the gear and stuff that they're supposed to have. I'm pretty sure they weren't even ready. Like whenever we had to I've done it a couple times, but I never had to like go, but whenever you had to like get your gear ready for like right when you get your deployment, the times that I didn't go, I think are the most interesting, is seeing everybody else lose their fucking mind about, oh man, I forgot this, and we gotta find that, oh we gotta get this, run around and get all this stuff. The way this war happened, I don't even think they even got ready to deploy to do the deployment. And if that's the case, then when you take a look at the weapon systems and all the other stuff, that makes sense. Then the last part of it would be what I was reading last night was the way Iran and the other side is attacking Israel is in a cheap, inefficient way that Israel was not expecting for, and is the weakness of the Iron Dome. So they're getting hit because Iran set up itself in a way where, one, you didn't even know that they were doing anything. Two, it's not costing them that much money. And three, it's the one thing that is the defense system is not or can't handle, and it's what's happening. So they got these cheap little missiles going over the Iron Dome, and it can't track it all. And now that's how Tel Aviv is getting carpeted. They're just not prepared. So if Bibi didn't know that, which per all these intelligence and all this other stuff that they're talking about, he should have. He's either putting his own people in harm's way in order to maintain power, which is Occam's razor to me, or they're so cocky and so blinded by the fact that no one is going to stop them, or by the idea that they can get away with anything that they want to, that they're just going into this blindly, half-cocked with no plan, thinking that everybody's going to back down, putting them in these type of situations that they're running out of ammunition for some places that they are, which is leaving them exposed. And then there's the last part about this is, due to that, I don't think the numbers, because I don't trust Russia either, but I don't think that the numbers of casualties that we have been reported is accurate. 5 seems really low. Russia is saying 500, which just seems really high, but I know there's there's got to be more than 5.
I think they're reporting 6 right now. So let me stop here and say congratulations, because this is why I want to watch, because you're telling me things I can't get anywhere else, or giving me the deal, and it is based on your real life lived expert experience. I'm not getting that anywhere else. And it's also given in a way that get it bare bones. It's not, oh, I'm on CNN, got to only say these things, I got to think about you, just be the real deal in a few minutes of talking. This is where your superpower lies, in repetition of things that I've heard 50 times anywhere else. Reading the article, right? Maybe your input or give you ideas. As far as presenting that to the audience, I think that's the thing that makes them click off, right? But if I hear you like, yeah, and when we were there, total, because I don't have that experience, and I have to take into account that you do and listen to what you're saying, and it creates credibility between you and the audience as well.
So I guess what you're saying is the way, I guess the way that you were saying, I wasn't like connecting it to what I was actually trying to accomplish, but that is what I am trying to accomplish. And then, like I said, the thing, the meat in the middle, especially considering I don't have my audience right now, is the article, which I guess shouldn't be the article and should be the video, but I don't like video because
It should be saying a headline essentially, hey, this happened. Read the article to tell me what happened. You can say it in your own, okay? Just say, hey, like this morning, Hegseth gave a conference or whatever. He gave a conference. In that conference, he had the nerve to say, oh, now we're using this, or oh, we torpedoed their submarine, whatever it is. Just say the one line, say the thought about it, go into the background and the history. So I think the mistake that streamers make is to feel like they're breaking news. They're one person who doesn't have resources behind them. Desk. So it looks the same, but then there's no way you can be CNN. Person on that I think that does a pretty reasonable job at aggregating breaking that is not a news organization is Steve Lookner. I'm sure you've seen Lookner. The only one that I've seen actually be able to do it. And part of it is because he ain't new to the game.
right.
Clear about that. He is from the news industry. Like, so
What was his name?
that. Like,
Steve what?
Steve Lookner, and then his on like
Oh, okay.
on
Okay.
X at
Oh,
Lookner.
okay. Yeah. I know this guy.
Like, so if you ever want that, but it's not going to be condensed. Doesn't do commentary. So to be clear, but you can find the fact of what's going on as far as said, what about whatever. This is here are some images of what's happening. Oh, they're intercepting me. You know, he camera that he pays for that are Associated Press or whoever. And they are also positioned in the Middle East. So if you want kind of the up to the minute, and right now, usually streaming like every day for 8 hours during these kinds of high, occurrence situations. Something to think about, but it's very difficult. You don't know the news. We know the news. We opened our phone and we saw the news. And anybody who cares about this stuff is familiar with the headline. And if they're not, you're going to give them enough and just you're talking. You don't need the article. You don't.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. I guess the what am I trying to say? The space that I'm trying to fill is a couple of things. So one,
Is it for people who don't read?
overall, what the point, I guess the main gist of the stream is to be able to talk a little bit more deeply about the headlines and the main top stories and whatever that are going on. Because one, how the media frames it is usually bullshit. And then that narrative is what's used to have the continue the conversation. But normally what I find is if you read the article or watch the video or, when they show somebody's quotes or speeches or whatever, I got questions that nobody's asking. That one, I got to go search for. And then when I find it, it's usually what I thought it was anyway. But like they were just hiding that, which then makes me ask another question. Why are you hiding that? So then I go looking at, and you know what I'm saying? So now what's happened is this one article or this one headline has all these different branches that we can pull from to add context, add perspective, add the stuff that you may not have ever heard before. And, the and all that kind of stuff like that. And then, hopefully the chat is involved and they're able to give their 2 cents as well. And then obviously if the audience were to be not necessarily Hassan size, but size enough for the chat to scroll, in that manner, then there would probably be at that point a inner community of people that, are closer, that understand what the content is and have those type of questions that then lead to the discussions on kind of stuff like that. So I hear what you're saying, and what you're saying is like, I guess what I've been trying to say to myself to do this, but I was using the article to fill the void in between time, especially considering I don't have the audience. Like for instance, the Tallarico Crockett thing. I heard the headline about the voting issues, but I didn't know what those actual issues were. And luckily through the article, it sent me to different places where I can say, oh, okay, the Republicans was on some bullshit back at this point in time. And then that puts it into this. And then so the conservatives are worried about election fraud, but then are causing it. And then that we can have that discussion.
But like he was saying, like Hyatt was saying, he was saying you're talking about something you don't know about. And that actually, so when I'm sitting here watching, I'm like, okay, he's about it. And is always going to be that we're on the same page, like you're prepped, you know what's going on. So the thing is, when do you turn on the, or do you decide, hey, I see something, I want to learn more about it? Okay, different journey than people who are expecting you to come to the table at a baseline understanding, right? So, but then when you tell me, gee, I don't know who learning, so then that does is that credibility from you and anything you say on that particular topic. But for a lot of people, it's just going to be this person doesn't know what they're talking about, period, because some people are silly. That point is, viewers expect you to know everything about everything, which nobody can do. Why careful in coming on and talking about things that you don't have the fine details of, and you need more than just the article that you read. Like,
I guess that's where I'm confused, because I hear what you're saying. I don't mean to cut you off, but I hear what you're saying, like that specific point. But that's my issue with video essays. I will get writer's block because this sentence is not comprehensive enough. You know what I mean? So then I'm never going to have the essay because the script is never going to get written. So, and then when it comes to, and so for me personally, the issue that I have with influencers and other content creators is that they think that they know everything. That's the problem. That's my issue. That's why I'm yelling at the screen all the damn time. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
The audacity. So here's what it feels like to the viewer. The audacity to come on without having prepared yourself. And believe me, will get on us about, well, did you watch the movie because they said XYZ at this time? And like they expect you never to make a speaking error. They expect you never to make a mistake. Expect you to keep the catalog of everything you ever knew in your head ready to come out your mouth at any moment. Okay, of course we know that's unrealistic and unreasonable. Point is, the viewer, these things shape how the viewer views you. And if the viewer does not look at you as credible, then they're not going to continue to watch. The minute, and it's, when they get like, oh, with the number of ads right now.
You broke up real bad. I don't know what you said. 5 seconds.
I was going to say, if it affects credibility if you seem like you don't know. You can't come to the table like we're going to learn together, because then that puts you on the same level as them in their minds, and they're because you're supposed to know a little bit more, or you don't. That's the perception. When you come and you honest and transparent to say, I hate you with it. Question you ought to ask yourself then, is this topic appropriate for a stream if I'm on my and understanding, right? Never do a stream or a discussion on sport because I'm weak in that area. I very much sports, unless I had somebody, like Hyde who knows more, and and then even what can I contribute, because I can't even be confident in what I'm, because.
So that's the reason. So I guess my logic is just backwards, and I'm just looking at it anti-algorithm or whatever, because if that's the case, then this should just be a sports stream. There's almost nothing. I don't know about that aspect, and I might not even have the experience, but like that's a topic that
you have other things besides sports. You don't than just sports. And honestly, this is the low-hanging fruit that any been paying attention to their growing up probably could talk about, in my opinion, is what leads to the bar talk, right? Because most of it is not actual, it's just opinions and feelings. But that's just
Yes, and I agree with you. I guess ultimately the reason why it seems like there's so much pushback is I hear what you're saying is what I've been arguing with my kind of, not those specific points, but overall the gist of it is what I've been arguing with myself with over the last however long. And then so what I decided was, but I had the audience. When I did, the reason why I was going to name this Good Morning and Height thankfully got me off of that was when I had the show on Twitch. This is where I got the idea from. The show on Twitch was banging, like it was a banger. Like although I may not have known the headline or like what the story was, like, you know, because it was just a headline that, oh, look at this headline just popped up. And one that I can remember because I have a reel of it or a Instagram video of it is when when Tracy Chapman sued Nicki Minaj for like a sample or whatever. And so that happened because I ran out of political stories and I was doing something and Nicki Minaj popped up and somebody in chat was like, Nicki Minaj did what? So I clicked it and we're looking at it together and I'm like, well, when did this happen? So then I looked at another story and by the end of it, I had 3 or 4 Nicki Minaj tabs up trying to figure out what this Nicki Minaj thing is. And we all together figured out the Nicki Minaj thing. And then we made our little Nicki Minaj jokes and we talked about the music industry. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to fill and stay informed. And then I lost Twitch. So this idea was one that I had that worked because I had an audience and then would fill the blank, you know, or fill the gap.
Is the key difference between politics like we were just doing and what you just mentioned? What is the key difference? You were talking about entertainment news. It was impromptu. Basically is senseless, but you know, the guilty pleasure that people love.
So entertainment, I could be ignorant. Sports, I got to know what I'm talking about, or actually I got to look like I know what I'm talking about. And politics, I already have to know what I'm talking about before I even begin.
Baseline.
That's a good point. I see what you're saying.
News, people expect for you to know, hey, Nicki Minaj, remember when we had this fight with that? The ones are the ones who know the history of all these people and who they use. Know who Nicki Minaj is. You got to know who her husband is. You got to know about his problems and her brother's legal problems. Why she might be over there with. There's whole everything. People who do it best know finest details of the top foolery. Even though it's cares like that. Do you get my point? Like it's not critical to our life or death in the way that certain this politics, but people who do it, they little and they can, oh yeah, 2019 when I talked about Nicki Minaj when she first married that man and before she had the baby, they are in depth. So bump that moment. There is heavy competition, and if you want to do well in any of these sectors, really kind of have to figure the format that's right for your target audience, and you sort of need to know who that is.
Right.
Even if you don't, because I also believe in build it and they will come. If you like you did about your personal experience when you said when we would, like I was engaged with that when you were telling me, because it's something women don't know, something I experienced and I can live through your experience and then have a better perspective. Doesn't watch know it, but you know it. So that's your superpower, and that's the lens through which you should be discussing all of this. So even if talking about Nicki Minaj, well, you just got to figure out how that relates to what you. When you start talking about stuff you don't know, believe me, there are people who know that area, and then they're gonna come and.
I mean, but for me though, that's what I would be looking for. That would be the point. At that point, like the article is just to make an example. The article would be if I didn't know. So I'm trying to find a quick example. Supreme Court. I don't know shit about that. All right. So I know nothing about the Trump administration, you know, ending legal protections for Syrian migrants. So in order to have a conversation that I can have a conversation about the Constitution and I can have a conversation about immigration and all this other stuff, I would use the article as this is what this current event is. This is what this is happening. These are what these facts are. I don't have to make that up. I'm not getting that from, and so that's the other thing that I'm trying to steer away from. I'm not trying to, with the facts or the foundation of the context of what we're talking about, I don't want that up for interpretation. The discussion that would be had, the perspectives, the questions, the digging into it and all that other kind of stuff like that can be, nebulous and someone can hold me accountable and someone can tell me I'm wrong or whatever it is. Like that part I'm not really worried about. The article, I guess, and the way I'm setting it up this way at this moment is, again, I probably, in order to create something produced and set up and well thought of, I guess I technically would have time for that, but I don't got time for that. So there's that part of it. But then
oh wait, hold up, you don't have time to read an article before you talk about an article? You don't have time to talk about stuff that you read yesterday? You can only do it as you're reading it?
No. So, okay, let me back up a sec. Part of the reason why when I was online before, part of the reason why I was doing things the way that I was doing things was based off of my debates that I was having and people not knowing a lot of the context of what I was talking about. So the issue that I find myself being in when it comes to like maybe this way I'm viewing it, it might not actually be this way, but this way it seems to me. The way it seems to me is in situations of breaking news or something that I know that people don't. Me saying it up front doesn't really, like, they don't believe it. Like, no, that ain't like that. You don't know what you're talking about. And then I got to argue with that before I get to my point. So I'm using the article, I'm using a article or using the current event to have something in writing. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't hear you.
It's not that you pulled the article up. It's that everything I just told you about Jasmine and everything that has happened that I knew up to date just as of this morning. It's just, I wasn't even concentrating when I was listening. Generally knew what was happening, and that was the fact I knew, and I can recount that to you. It was yesterday when I assumed that, and so I understand if you want to pull an article up to have something to say, this is true. For goodness sakes, don't give me the article. Me in your words, but you're showing so that you see this really did happen because U.S. bombs Iran. Believe that, then you don't have to spend time arguing with people about whether the fact is true, and then you can move on to whatever needs to be discussed. But this notion that you have to lean on the article so heavily is that no. And then the next thing is that you need to do some foundational research on certain things, I think, because you the gaps. Any of us have gaps, like areas of things. Talking about politics is going to involve more than just who the players are. To know about the Supreme Court, maybe a little bit more, and that's saying you got attorney level knowledge, and whatever. You got to know more than just trying to pull up something quickly, just say something, right? Really have that as part of your foundation knowledge, so that whenever these things are brought up, you can remember just the same way as you remembered. Agree, because I think Clyburn is the whole blame for Clyburn for Trump's second election. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Him being president now, I blame the fact that that's the connection you made, because that's the same connection I make, and I bring it up to all the time. Rare that I hear anybody ever bring up Clyburn, especially now. In the moment, they were like, Clyburn, basically saved the day. But now that we get months and years away from it, nobody ever brings that up anymore.
Right.
I
No, I
respect
remember
that
that
you
shit like it
have
was
that in
yesterday.
your repertoire. You know what I'm saying? I respect that, but you need more things like that in your repertoire. And the only way to get them there, learn them, which
So
means, like you
I
said, you're
guess
going to the library and you're going to do some research to store up that foundational.
yes, definitely. And that's another reason for myself personally why I enjoy this type of stream format is one, I'm doing things that I needed to do for myself, like when I was doing the book club. Part of the book, the first couple books that I was reading, I read those, but most of the books that I had on the back burner were ones that I needed to catch up on, that I wanted to read, that I wanted to know about. So if I was gonna do it, let's do it together and discuss it while I'm doing it together. So all of that is 100%
Okay, so
understood.
it's a
I guess
restaurant. If you're
the
serving,
issue that I have, or the pushback that I have, and for the reason why I'm currently doing it this way, is I'm a YouTube file. So like I'm on YouTube more than any other app on my phone. And for other people that get hundreds of thousands of views or big content creators, I mean, yes, you have your produced, and most of them are produced and have teams and all the other kind of stuff like that. But it seems, this has always been the issue, but it seems on the other side of the spectrum, and for, I guess, real low hanging fruit content, you don't need any of that shit. People want you to be retarded, for lack of a better term. Well, it's not a lack of a better term. To be to use the term they would use. They, want you to be illiterate, for God's sakes. And so I get all that, but then
just sit there and dance and do silly stuff, and then that's even easier than having to pull up the article. What I would also say is the way it feels to me as a consumer is it feels like you own a restaurant and I'm a patron at the restaurant and I'm paying you. You know what? I'm giving you my time by paying attention to you. And you want to serve me a cold meal and charge me full price for it. Right? You'll get to eat, you'll get filled up. But I have to wait for you because you don't want to do work ahead of time, or you don't have to say you don't have to work ahead of time. There's a minimum baseline of quality that's affected when you make me have to do your work with you or sit there and wait on you. Are you like that? But some people might be cool with that if somehow you can entertain them while you do it. But
right.
that, that's, as a viewer, it makes you feel. And I'm saying both a consistent producer of content on, as well as a consumer. I'm on YouTube all day long, 7 days a week. As a consumer, I'm on other people, not for the sake of research or anything, because I enjoy YouTube. That is what I'm on more than anything else,
Right.
more than whatever other platform.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it, but that is a different experience than as a creator. And it informs how I interact with other people or don't. Now, funny enough, as a creator with other people, the fact that I'm on here talking to you, I never make comments on other people's videos. I never interact with them, because the only reason I would do it is because I'm a creator. As a person, I'm one of these people that sits and watch people who I like very much all the time, and I have made a comment. I'll like their video, I consume their content, I watch ads me on their content, but that is the type of viewer that I am. I don't interact with them. It's take what they send me, and that's a little different than live streaming still.
Right,
But
that's
consider
true.
all of those things. That your perception is based on not creating consistently on YouTube, although you watch YouTube. And I think you're taking for granted that your ideas about what is going to be successful with the people that you're looking at to as a target audience. Now, if you want a room full of, for lack of a better way to put it, uninformed people who are just going to spend time, you're going to have to do some hokey things to keep them entertained and engaged. But they're low effort things, and you can have a low effort audience if you want to. You can have an audience that's going to help your show be better, but you also have to deliver something better to them too. It's been my experience anyway.
Yeah, I get you. That is well received. I mean, it was something. The thing about it is, it's like the reason why I hear you so well is this is already kind of what I've been thinking to myself anyway. It's just ultimately I don't have an audience. So most of the stuff that I would be doing needs an audience. So what do I do in the meantime to get the audience? That's why I was just like, oh, stream, do the thing, be visible, be blah, 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 you know, all that kind of stuff like that. But that seems to be counterproductive when you put it all together.
You don't need an audience to say things that are true or to tell your opinions. Hey, tell me what happened in 1953 in relation to current events.
Right.
Tell me.
Well, I mean, before I get to that, but the thing is like, I guess the way that I was looking at it is in a live stream setting with a small audience, being able to address their concerns as well as in a way in a 1953 type way, or be able to, I guess, present a perspective or ask for a perspective that nobody's really kind of asking for, like real time. And then that type of discourse be the play, like for people to come in or whatever, like, okay, well, what do we got today? We're going to hear some headlines. We're going to get into deeper into the headline. We're going to hear some perspective that's a little bit different. I'm going to have some questions. We're going to be, you know, and it's going to be kind of like that. That's the way I'm viewing it. But, I guess people don't view YouTube the way that I do.
Aside from less work, what's the difference in you streaming and you making a video? What is the difference? Primary difference in how you execute that?
Less perfection
in the live stream.
Yeah, like it's real raw and like real time. And then at least, especially when it comes to responding, because another thing that I was thinking about doing to fill the time, but then I don't want to sit here and look for videos all the time, was like react to like people. But then that's the other thing. I don't have my algorithm. I'll put it to you like this. Do you know Ebony Warriors? Yeah.
There's one thing that's the main difference is your ability to be agile. If you are on live, it's different. Record our content technically live, right? Because we set it up and then record it in one fail, and we edit it, but the editing it's technically live at the time we do it, but we still have the opportunity to go back. The thing is, you want to interact with an audience, but you be agile, because for me to feel like you see me as the audience and you're not ignoring me, you need to be able to interact, hop into what I'm talking about, and hop back out and stay on track. It's really going to be agility in those situations, and that is a main difference. Large audience. You keep saying I have an audience. Well, you're never going to have an audience. Aren't giving a prospective audience something to sit and watch for. What'll happen is the replay. People might catch the replay. Then they might go, "Oh, okay. Well, subscriber, let me stick around," and then they become part of your audience, right? And then the audience will grow over time if what you're serving them is what they want to. But you have to just you would decide what you're going to talk about, and if nobody is in the room watching, then you just keep talking and you anticipate the questions people might have. Answer your own questions out loud. The questions that are and I answer those questions myself, and in real time you might go, oh, then the downside of that is you allow the audience to listen to you think out loud things if you're not doing a whole lot of work ahead of time. And then, oh, now look, one person came in and they made a comment. Then I engage with that person and they say back into whatever I discussed for that day would be. And then you just keep doing that. And then the audience grows, and then less of your time has to be spent on the front end of figuring out how to fill the time, because the time will be filled with your agile discussions that you're having with the audience.
So I mean, so in that case, it's seeming like a podcast basically. It's basically the Pennyman Doctrine, because that's what that was too.
Okay, so if you ever watched any show on TV, if you watch sports, they have a very professional cast. Right? If you watch Rachel Maddow, something happened that day, and then they gonna go through and explain it to you live on the air.
Yeah, I don't want to be Rachel Maddow.
I'm not saying, it's an example of how people put on a broadcast. Want to be a broadcast, right?
In a sense, yeah, sure. I want people to be informed and ask better questions and have better perspectives.
People. That's what you want to do. So what you do is put on the show. It doesn't matter if somebody's watching or not. The show is the show, and it should stand alone.
So then basically turn it into a podcast. Instead of thinking of it like a live stream, think of it as a podcast where the adaptation comes into play would be.
What Rachel Maddow does is a live stream. Do you call that a podcast? What's the name got to do with it? You're broadcasting something and put out what should be out there.
Right. Yes. And so I'm hearing what you're saying. Like, I'm picking up what you're saying. I'm saying to say that the reason for the format that I have currently is
because you want to be lazy and just put up an article and read it and have content.
No, not necessarily be lazy. It's not necessarily be lazy. Like, for instance, I knew what was going on in Tallarico and Crockett for the most part, except for the district thing, because that didn't really make any sense, and I didn't live in Texas, so I didn't really look too much into it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I knew what was going on with Crockett and Tallarico and had thoughts that I wanted to give specifically after the election, because I don't live in Texas and this shit didn't have anything to do with me. So what am I yapping for until things is done, until we have the results, and then we could say something about it. So when it came to the redistricting part, especially considering that was a confusing situation for other people as well, to me, that's live on stream, holding myself accountable for information as I, not necessarily don't know it, but it's just like, we're having the conversation. Hey, we're looking at this and da-da-da, and I'm telling you about Crockett, da-da-da. And, we did hear that Crockett had the redistricting, and I thought that she lost her seat because of that or whatever. And so then, like I said, looked it up, found out what the case was.
Okay, so let me go watch somebody who knows. Let me go watch Roland Martin, because he knows more about this than you. I don't want to sit and watch you get educated. I come for information, and
so
you don't
I
have
guess
it. So I'm
so this is where I guess I'm being
don't like, because they're coming with. I'm watching Don Lemon because he knows what's happening. Don't, right?
So I guess this is where my neurons are diverging. My neurons are diverging. What was that last part?
Everything you show me is that you don't even know what these other people know. So why am I watching you rather than them?
So
I don't want to see you get up to speed. Be up to speed.
So that's I guess where the neurons are diverging, and it's not making too much sense to me. People don't even trust that. So why? So wouldn't real-time live fact checking your fact checks? be an example, like, you know what I'm saying? Because the way I'm looking,
Okay, but then why even care about getting information right if people don't care about getting information right? Why even read the article? Just say anything.
Dude,
Yeah, that one bricked me. That one crossed the wires, bro. You got me on that one. I don't know how to respond to that one.
listen. There are people who actually get up there and they talk about very important things that they have, in my opinion, no business.
No business.
Bring it up because you know nothing about it. But then they get up there and they're like, crazy.
I mean, that's basically every conservative outlet that I've ever listened to.
That's crazy.
And they make billions of dollars just bullshit. So that's why I'm confused on, well, I mean, and I guess it's one of those things that because that's the way society gets their information presented, that's the way they want it. And me doing it a little bit different is
effort to be better than
dissonant.
them, at least. Doesn't that much effort to be better than them, at least. Better than that.
Well, I mean, I guess the time and the effort part of it is a bad way to word it, because again, it's not that I am not informed.
You don't respect your listeners. You don't respect your listeners. You don't respect their time. You don't think they deserve better, so you're gonna serve them the cold meal and say, pay me full price. You're not like, let me give you a discount because it's cold. Just like, it's cold. This is okay for you.
It's a fajita. And it cook while it's sitting there.
No, this is a summer salad.
I get you.
It's supposed to be hot.
Tell me like, hey, don't worry about the food. Just watch how I put it together and you'll be full in the end. No, when I go there, I'm trying to get the meal.
I mean, yeah, I'm the part that's, I guess, is so dissonant is what you're saying is so factual, and I am hearing it and I'm resonating with it. Where I'm pushing back, and it's not necessarily like a pushback where I'm like, this is how I'm gonna do my show, because no, obviously I need some changes, but I don't know, the content that I see from others who are viral, who go viral all the time or whatever, it's lazier than the word lazy, but it's presented as it's not. And that in and of itself right there is like a big, and so I guess what I'm doing, which is not good for the algorithm, is I'm trying to do what I would hope others would do for their own video before they even do the video. I'm just doing it while I'm streaming.
Oh, let me tell you what you're doing. You want to change lives, you want to help, you want to address things, you want to help, incongruent with capitalistic pursuits on you. Okay, now.
Who, me?
So let's understand that.
What?
You said you wanted to help people and help them understand things and concerned about their concerns like money and
right
things are right. That's what I'm talking about earlier. That part is incongruent, triggering the algorithm for the maximum profit. It doesn't mean it can't be, but you're comparing yourself to people who are willing to compromise on every, doing baby things, doing things that where they're, it lacks substance. If that's what you want to do, then okay, but
they're doing the substance stuff lazy. That's what I'm talking about.
It's substance-less.
Okay, what substance stuff you're doing that's not lazy? Reading article after article that I could read on my own time?
What I mean by lazy, but what I mean by their lack of their laziness is it's not only is it lazy because they're not even actually looking up anything and they're just yapping on serious topics, but it's wrong and not even logically how things work.
The people I named, they do the research before they press the button to go live. Roland Martin knows what he's talking about before he goes live. You can disagree with him or whatever, but he's talking about stuff that he knows for the most part. Lemon is talking about the stuff that he knows that they research. That's not lazy.
Okay. So, on a news scroll type of stream where the whole point of the show is to scroll the news and an article pops up maybe on something that that hasn't been reported on, then what?
It's been reported on because you're reading it. What do you mean?
What I mean is like hasn't been like majorly reported on. Because again, like I was saying with the Nicki Minaj thing, that was a great moment, but that moment happened sporadically. It wasn't like I was looking for Nicki Minaj news. It's not like we were set up for entertainment that day.
That was a fluke that is not reproducible consistently. To have something that, hey, you're there, you're available to catch the flukes when they happen, and then you could quickly pivot, aka the agility I was talking about with live streaming. Something going to happen every day that where all the moon and the stars align. So you still have to have substance beyond that. And what you're saying, like, even willing to make up your own somebody else's content as your content propaganda, that like, and you read the article and understand it, can summarize it in a sentence or two and explain it. Refer back to the article for particulars like specific numbers or percentage points. Or talking about sitting there, paragraph 1, the minute that any content creator starts reading, the minute I click off, because I'm reading the article myself, or a lot of times they'll start reading, done with the paragraph, still reading, fast forward through the content, and my time wasted. What I can.
That's fair.
You know, but you're better than that, and everybody doesn't have the ability to do what you do and to know what they're operating many times in the lane that they operate in. Be down there with them on that. Take a little preparation.
Understood. That's fair.
Go a long way. It really will go a long way. Other than
I guess
that, back point of differentiation. In any of them
to do any of that, you know, I guess isn't that difficult. What I was trying to accomplish was not be a podcast and not be call
yourself. It doesn't matter what you call yourself, because they're going to call it a podcast. What you have is not a podcast. You know, who cares what you call it? Just call it a podcast. Reality is you are going to be streaming and speaking off the cuff, and to the layperson, a podcast or sitting there talking and bumping your gums, whatever, same thing to them, because they really don't know the definition.
That's true.
Okay, and fine. Don't get wrapped up in that.
Facts.
The point is, you want to be able to have lack conversation where you can be agile and track.
No, I will be.
You want to be a live streamer, does that on podcast.
Good point. Well, in that case, one, I'm being summoned. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm being summoned. And then two, I'm at time anyway. But one,
can talk
thank you
later further.
Because I was gonna say we could definitely talk about it later, because thank you, because this was a conversation that was probably gonna be had in the next week or two anyway, because I would have been like, man, I've been streaming for a week and I ain't got nobody, man, what should I do? So that conversation just kind of happened a week earlier. And then two, you gave me a lot to think about, because I'm not thinking about, I guess I'm not thinking about how it looks. I'm thinking about how I want it to feel while I'm doing it. And it's not about me 100%.
But yeah, so we'll talk.
It's about the audience. It's about the audience. It's about the audience.
It is. And that's making me rethink a lot of things.
We to more streams, good, but since nobody was here, we could have this wonderful conversation. But we'll.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming on Discord, because that made that Texas conversation way easier. I don't know what was up with your Discord, where it was really choppy, but I got the gist of everything that you were saying, though, even though it was kind of hard to hear you.
I don't know. It could be because I had it on speaker so that we could both hear.
I got you. Understood. Well, I appreciate you,
right.
and I will talk to you guys soon. And as far as you guys on YouTube, I will holler at y'all later too. It seems like we're gonna have some changes to the show.
Yes, indeed. Okay, talk to you later.
Yep, see you later.
Okay.
And I'll see you guys later too. You have a good one, and we'll get into some more news, but it seems like I'm gonna be doing it a different way here soon. So I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.